Hey there, folks. Welcome to another fun at-home table read. Tonight, we're jumping into another unmade film from Brian K. Vaughan, his adaptation of his comic, Y the Last Man. We're going to hear how this film would have potentially gone. So, let me run through and introduce ourselves.
I am Lynne, and I'm reading Scene Description and Alter and a couple other people.
I'm Logan. I'm going to be reading Yorick.
Hi, I'm Angi. I am reading Agent 355.
Hi, I'm Mary. I'll be reading Beth.
Hi, I'm Neshia, and I'll be reading Victoria.
Hi, I'm Nicole. I'll be reading for Dr. Mann.
Hi, I'm Ann, and I will be reading for Congresswoman. Oh gosh, what's her name? Congresswoman. I have it highlighted. That's what's important.
All right, well, Lynn, take us away.
All right, Y the Last Man by Brian K. Vaughan, based on the series from Vertigo Comics, created by Brian K. Vaughan and Pia Guerra. Interior, minivan, day. Open hard on the passenger seat of a speeding minivan, where a male teenager is slumped against his blood-stained window. He's dead, and a distinctly female voice is screaming in recognition of this horror. Pull out to reveal that this voice belongs to the minivan's driver, the late teen's mother, who's presumably racing to a hospital.
Why is this happening?
Pull out even more to reveal two more dead boys in the back seats of the vehicle. More subtle this time. They're slumped over on their PSPs. We can't see their faces.
Just hold on. I'm gonna get you help.
The mother is cut off mid-sentence by exploding glass as her windshield ruptures on impact with another vehicle. Exterior New Jersey intersection continuous. Cut outside as a speeding fire truck runs a red light and easily knocks aside the minivan that dared cross its path. Interior fire truck. Behind the wheel, a hard rock female firefighter shakes her head at the smaller vehicle that stupidly ignored her blaring sirens.
Fucking women drivers.
Exterior New Jersey street. Outside, the street is littered with crashed cars, most of them containing the corpses of recently deceased male drivers. A few small fires dot the landscape. This looks more like Fallujah than Jersey. The fire truck reluctantly slows to a halt as it confronts a Jersey City police car parked in the middle of the road. Outside the squatty, a Hispanic female police officer is cradling the lifeless body of her male partner, whose face is smeared with fresh blood. The female firefighter hops out of her vehicle to assist her sister in arms.
Marianella. They're dead. They're all dead. The whole precinct.
I know, I'm the only one left from ladder 10. It's got to be Al-Qaeda or smallpox or something.
Then why are we okay? Why aren't we?
The female officer is interrupted by the sudden arrival of an ambulance, which screeches to a halt inches from the two other emergency vehicles. A female EMT hops out and sprints over to the other uniformed women.
What the hell is happening? Dispatch says I'm the only bus responding to all the calls.
Is your dispatcher a woman?
Suddenly, a wailing sound is heard, like a distant wounded animal.
What difference does that make?
The sound grows louder.
Is your dispatcher a fucking woman? Yes, why?
The women raise their voices to compete with the alien sound, which is even louder now.
It's the men. All the men are.
Pull out as the sound reveals itself to be a Boeing 747. It's falling out of the goddamn sky. A split second before the plummeting aircraft crashes into this unlucky trio, we smash cut to white text on black background. Brooklyn, New York, 5 hours ago.
You know Elvis had a twin brother?
Interior office morning. Inside a tastefully decorated office, we learned that the voice behind this non sequitur belongs to Yorick Brown, an oddly attractive 20-something white guy who looks all wrong in a tie. He's wearing one anyway. Yorick's staring right at us as he nervously rambles.
It's true. Jesse Garin Presley. He was an identical twin, stillborn by a few minutes before Gladys gave birth to the king. They buried him in a shoebox. How insane is that? I mean, what if Jesse, Elizabeth, and Ellis had died? Or vice versa? It's destiny, right? Why does fate choose one man over another and all that?
Cut across the desk to the unimpressed female executive who's apparently been interviewing Yorick.
And that's why we should hire you to be an assistant editor?
I'm just saying, I'm more Elvis than Jesse. Plus, I'm a ninja with grammar. Ma'am.
The woman looks over Yorick's resume.
You haven't worked since you graduated more than 2 years ago.
No, I've sort of been doing the Kerouac thing. Minus the road trip. Or traveling. Or leaving my apartment at all, really. I've been thinking. Mostly thinking.
Mr. Brown.
Yorick, please. Mr. Brown is my father. My grandfather. Actually, Professor Brown is my old man.
Yorick, I'll be honest. With your lack of publishing experience, I never even would have given you an interview if Congresswoman Brown hadn't asked me personally.
My mom called you?
I'm sorry, son. You're a good kid, but you're still a kid.
Push in on Yorick, not quite ready to give up.
Did you know Elvis Nixon once deputized Elvis to be a secret agent?
White text on black. Williamsburg, Virginia, 4 hours ago.
The president is a bitch.
Interior doll factory morning. It's after hours inside a dimly lit doll factory that's cluttered with unassembled plastic body parts of the girls' toys. Standing under a naked bulb in this warehouse-sized room is Agent 355, a late 20s African-American woman who could kill you with a single dreadlock.
If you want him dead, I'm your man.
Pull out as we relieve Agent 355 is speaking with two men, a seated Russian businessman and the nervous assistant standing behind him.
Yet, you're not. I am paying for an assassin, not a...
The woman comes very highly recommended, sir. She took down the head of the Roberto Oil in Venezuela.
355 smiles.
Haven't you heard? We're the deadlier of the species. If Mother Russia could hold on to her brides better, maybe you wouldn't have to outsource all of your dirty work.
The frowning Russian businessman just stares at 355, but his grimace eventually gives way to a smile.
You remind me of my first wife.
Messy divorce?
I cut her face off and had it stretched into lampshade.
Give me the first 10 million now, and POTUS will be dead before he leaves the stupid ranch.
The businessman motions to his assistant, who brings 355 a suitcase. Just as he's about to hand over this case, 355 grabs the assistant's wrist and twists it behind his back. With her free hand, 355 pulls out a Glock, which she presses to her startled hostage's head.
Federal agent, you're both under arrest.
Which federal agency?
You're not really in a position to be asking questions, fuckface.
The businessman calmly raises a finger and gunshots ring out as the hostage's chest suddenly explodes. The dead assistant slumps to the ground as several heavily armed Russian bruisers step out of the shadows behind their boss.
Hurt her as much as you want, but I get to finish it.
355's eyes narrow as she uses her free hand to pull out a ballistic baton, which she extends with a satisfying think. The first of the 6 thugs runs at 355, and she promptly shoots him in the chest, knocking him to the ground. The next uses his muscular forearm to chop the Glock out of 355's hand, but she swings her metal baton right into one of his eye sockets. As this blinded man screams in pain, 2 more charge at 355. She grabs the first by his thick neck and snaps it by using his skull as a fulcrum to swing around and kick his partner in the face with a devastating force. 355 continues to throw punches and break bones until she's eventually overpowered by Russian muscle. As the men wrestle her to the ground, 355 looks up to see the businessman holding one of his goons' machine guns.
I'm going to enjoy reeling by the light of your face.
And with that, he smashes her in the skull with the butt of the weapon, knocking her unconscious. Exterior, apartment building, morning. A dejected Yorick shambles towards his rundown brownstone in Queens as an airplane roars directly overhead. He lives right next door to LaGuardia Airport, a nightmare. Interior, apartment building, continuous. As Yorick forces open the sticky front door, he's greeted by his very pregnant neighbor who's retrieving her mail.
How'd it go, Yorick?
Better than the last 3?
Well, you'll get it next time.
Yorick looks at her belly.
You know yet, or do you want to be surprised?
Oh, we just found out. Little boy.
Seriously? Congrats, that's so...
The two are immediately interrupted by their landlord, who angrily slings open the door to their ground floor apartment.
Something in your apartment smells like shit.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I think I burnt popcorn last...
It's literally shit, Yorick. The lease says no animals.
Yorick quickly gathers his bills and trudges up the stairs.
It says no cats or dogs.
Yorick pushes into his dark pad, a hilariously tiny studio apartment decorated with posters of Houdini and other assorted nerdery.
Ampersand! Amp? Where are you, buddy? Your questionable hygiene has run its course, little man. Time for...
Suddenly, a dark figure steps out of the shadows, startling Yorick, who screams like a girl. White text on black. Ramallah, Palestine, 3 hours ago. Who the hell are you? Exterior streets of Ramallah evening. This question belongs to Colonel Alter Teslan, a 30-something soldier of the Israeli Dark Defense Forces. She's holding a large machine gun and smoking casually, as are her soldiers, several of whom happen to be female. Pull out to reveal that Alter is addressing an American television reporter and his camera.
We're Americans.
I never would have guessed. Alter is joined by her second-in-command, an attractive young Israeli female soldier named Rachel.
They're doing a piece on a female combat soldier, Alter.
They're not doing anything until our patrol is finished. Suddenly, gunshots ring out. The reporter and his cameraman flinch, but the Israeli soldiers just casually toss their cigarettes aside.
Are they shooting at us? Alter?
My name is Colonel Teslan, and you will address me as such. Come, my team and I will get you to safety. The reporter subtly signals for his cameraman to keep filming as Alter escorts the crew double time through the dark streets.
So, how did you...
21 months of military service is compulsory for all Israeli women.
Yeah, but this is some sort of new phenomenon, right? Woman on the front lines?
My grandmother crossed into enemy territory during our War of Independence, and her grandmother was part of the all-female Battalion of Death during the Russian Revolution. Alter stops and turns to speak directly to the videographer's camera. Defending our territory at any cost is in women's blood, and the new crop of girls strapping on bomb belts for Islamic Jihad will be happy to. Without warning, a nearby car explodes in deafening burst of sound and fury, knocking everyone to the ground. Interior, Yorick's apartment, morning. Matching this flash, A frightened Yorick flips on his light switch, illuminating an unexpected vision standing before him. A 20-something blonde bombshell named Beth DeVille, much too beautiful for a geek like Yorick. Or is she? Beth's wearing a trench coat that's tightly closed over her thin body.
Beth?
Hey, handsome.
I thought you weren't coming over for another...
She kisses him.
You talk too much.
Yorick smiles as he looks down at her coat.
What's the trench? You're flying to sunny Los Angeles, not old-timey London.
I'm insulted. This is what I wore to our first date, remember? Midnight screening of Miller's Crossing at the Angelica? You said I looked like a degenerate flasher.
But that wasn't our first date. You were still seeing my troglodyte of a roommate.
So, you were seeing Libby.
You guys set me up with her, and she covered her eyes every time someone in the movie got shot.
Well, my date kept falling asleep.
Yeah, well, right after the Danny Boy scene, when Leo blew that guy's brains out and stole his Tommy, and you turned to me and whispered, "That was the coolest motherfucking thing I have ever seen."
He kisses her.
And that's when I knew you were the only degenerate flasher I'd ever love.
And that's when I knew I needed a better wardrobe.
Beth undoes her trench coat, revealing skimpy lingerie underneath. Yorick is predictably awestruck.
Wow. I mean,
Shh.
this is...
Shh. It's a going away present.
But I'm not the one leaving town. Unless those pharmaceutical nerds want you so bad they've thrown in an extra ticket.
Beth sighs. They've obviously had this conversation before.
My internship's only for 3 months, Yorick.
Yeah, sure, until you discover the cure for cancer and they offer you...
Fed up, Beth pushes Yorick to the floor and climbs on top of him.
Do you have protection?
Yorick fumbles for a nearby box. He tips it over and outspills duct tape, gas mask, and various canned foods.
Do you have anthrax?
Beth kisses him.
It's fine.
She starts grinding against him.
Are you sure that's safe?
Yeah, I'm on the shot.
Yorick kisses her back, but stops abruptly.
Wait, what shot?
Beth smiles.
The one I invented.
Close on Yorick's panicked expression. White text on black. Cleveland, Ohio, 2 hours ago.
What the hell are you talking about?
Interior Convention Center day. Standing outside of a large convention center ballroom is Victoria, a conservatively dressed redhead in her late 30s. She's arguing with a registration official while dozens of male grand masters play chess behind him.
I registered months ago. I'm sorry, Mrs. It's Ms. If they didn't put it under my last name, try Victoria. Ma'am, it doesn't matter what your name is. I can't let you compete. The women's tournament isn't until next week. Women's? We're playing chess. This is a competition of the mind. You'll have to take that up with the organizers, ma'am. You call me ma'am one more time, I'll rip out your hair plugs. Security.
2 men in blue blazers rush over to remove Victoria.
I'm a grand master. I could be any man in that room.
The security officers grab Victoria, but she shakes them off and steps away from the registration table. On her way out of the center, she looks back and threatens.
There's a reason the queen is the most powerful piece, you know.
Interior Yorick's apartment day. Back in his pad, a post-coital Yorick is in bed now, lying next to a disrobed Beth.
Was that okay?
Beth smiles as she runs her fingers over his chest.
Which part of faster, harder, again, confused you?
No, I mean, about me inside you or finishing?
Beth rolls over a little hurt.
Yorick, this is what got me my stupid scholarship. The hormones I synthesize are just as effective as the pill.
Then why not just take that?
Because if it weren't for the researchers being brave enough to test shit on themselves, we'd still have malaria and anemia and millions of other diseases.
We don't have a disease, Beth. Do you?
Beth stands, covering herself in a blanket.
Baby, you have no idea what it's like to bleed for days on end. But the science exists for women to permanently suppress ovulation to get rid of the monthly visitor forever.
I thought you were the one girl who didn't mind the sight of blood.
Yeah, well, people change, I guess.
As long as you're sure it, works.
Beth smiles again and she rubs her flat stomach.
I promise the last thing I want is any little surprises in my...
Suddenly, a small creature leaps out of the shadows and lands on Beth's shoulders. Understandably, she screams. White text on black. San Francisco, California, 1 hour ago. A screeching animal is heard under this title card. Interior laboratory morning. Inside a high-tech facility, a rat hisses in pain as it's injected with a long syringe. Pull out to reveal that we're in a laboratory filled with caged lab animals, mice, baboons, etc. Scientist behind this experiment is Dr. Allison Mann, a stoic Chinese-American woman in her early 30s.
Easy, girl. It only hurts the first time. Yeah, I've used that line a few times myself.
Mann turns to see her visitor, an intimidating man wearing the kind of standard issue black suit that suggests you're about to be killed or audited or both.
Then here's a new one for you. No means no. I've told you 100 times I'm not interested in helping you. Dr. Mann, China is dangerously close to becoming a peer competitor to the United States. And unless we can slow the growth of its strategic arsenal, why are you people coming to me? I'm Chinese. No, you are Chinese American. And if you had any love for your heritage, your family you left behind, Dr. Ming, you would have taken your new name from a faux Oriental movie theater in LA. I was 18 when I did that. Doctor, your country needs you. I'm not interested in creating life. I'm interested in creating life, not destroying it. Yeah, but your work isn't cheap, is it? It'd be a shame if your funding suddenly expired.
Mann stops what she's doing.
Are you threatening me? Look, Allison, we're not interested in hurting anyone. We're just looking for ways to alter the geopolitical landscape if and when push comes to shove with the People's Republic. Whatever, along with being junk science, your plan is a grotesque violation of the natural order. And animal cloning isn't. Every twin on the planet is a clone. There is a precedent. What you're suggesting is impossible.
The visitor tosses a classified file folder onto Mann's desk. It's labeled Setting Sun, Primate Research Proposal.
We'll see. What is this? The first step. Call me if you want to be there for the second.
Before exiting the lab, the visitor taps on one of the sleeping baboon's glass prisons, causing the frothing animal to spring to life. Interior, Yorick's apartment, day. A mortified Yorick screams at his off-screen pet.
Ampersand, no!
Cut over to Beth, who is trying to pry Ampersand, a male Capuchin helper monkey, off her shoulder.
What the hell is it?
You know the curly symbol for and, like a Turner and Hooch, or...
I know what an ampersand is, asshat! What is ow?
As the diaper-clad monkey bites Beth's finger, Yorick reaches out to take the animal.
I'm sorry, you're supposed to be a helper monkey.
Please don't tell me you've gotten that lazy.
Well, it's not for me. Look, I volunteered to train this species-flinging bastard to help quadriplegics with their daily chores and shit. Look, I wanted to have him ready before you left, but he got stuck in customs after some kind of paperwork screw-up, so...
Yorick, you couldn't keep sea monkeys alive. Why would you do that?
Beth walks into the tiny bathroom to wash her wound, closing the door behind her and leaving Yorick alone with his pet.
No. I guess I just wanted to use my abundant free time to help people. I mean, you and the rest of my globetrotting pals are off saving the world or whatever, and I haven't done a goddamn thing for anyone.
Yorick, look, before I go, there's something I need to tell you.
Yorick pulls out a tiny box out of a nearby drawer and looks down at the little cube thoughtfully.
Wait, me first. I've been meaning to say this for a long time.
He opens the box, revealing a modest engagement ring. As he speaks, Beth runs the water in the bathroom, just barely drowning out his quiet voice.
Beth, look, you're brilliant and sexy, and you know the names of all 6.5 of the Three Stooges, and I didn't even know they made women like you. I want to spend...
Yorick nervously shuts the little ring box as Beth steps out of the bathroom, now wearing conservative attire.
I should really go, baby.
Before Yorick can protest, she kisses him deeply.
I'll call you every day, okay?
Wait, can I at least carry your bags?
Beth reaches out to pet Ampersand with her newly bandaged finger.
You should probably stay here and take care of him, Chim Chim, huh? Besides, it's not like I have very far to walk.
On cue, the windows in Yorick's apartment begin to rattle as a passenger jet thunders directly overhead. A dejected Yorick watches Beth leave as Ampersand picks something out of his hair. Interior, doll factory, day. Agent 355 is now seated in a folding chair with her hands handcuffed behind her. The bruises on her face suggest that she's been tortured for the last few hours by the Russian mobster and his henchmen.
I'll ask you one more time. What is your name?
I told you I'm Agent 355.
Fuck the rank and serial number bullshit. Tell me your name.
My colleagues will be here any second now.
It's been hours. If anyone knew where you were, they would have been here already. Now tell me who you work for.
355 says nothing as the businessman begins playing with the collapsible baton he took from her. He's suggestively extending and retracting the hard metal rod.
If you can't put words in your mouth, perhaps you will find something else to put in there.
As the businessman nods, one of the henchmen unzips his pants and approaches 355, who bravely grits her teeth. Exterior streets of Ramallah night. In the aftermath of the explosion, several Israeli armored vehicles have arrived to provide backup and escort the shaken American reporter and his cameraman back to safety. A bandaged altar is smoking on top of a parked tank as Rachel, in her second in command, arrives with a situation report. How many?
6 injured, 2 dead, Noah and Saggy.
Alter takes a long drag off her cigarette. Thank you, Rachel. Just then, male voices speaking Hebrew are heard screaming over Rachel's radio. Gradually, the screaming becomes live as the male soldiers surrounding them begin to scream as well. The hell? Exterior, Cleveland Park, day. Victoria is sitting on a park bench watching as overweight men in business suits walk past. She's rolling a pawn piece back and forth across her knuckles. Interior, airplane, day. As a baby cries somewhere in the plane's cabin, a pensive Beth is looking out her window at the world far below. She's the only person in her aisle.
Excuse me.
Beth turns to see a handsome 30-something African-American man.
Really sorry to bother you, but that kid is driving me insane. Mind if I sit here?
Beth looks up at him, a brief beat.
Not at all.
Interior, laboratory, morning. Dr. Mann paces as she talks on her cell phone.
Listen to me. You have to stop this now. I'll give you whatever you want, but if you go through with this without my guidance...
The doctor looks up as she hears one of her animals whimper in pain. She returns to her phone, but the line's dead.
Hello? Hello?
Interior Yorick's apartment day. A dejected Yorick feeds small pieces of fruit to his monkey, who promptly flings them across the room.
Just you and me now.
Black text on white. Now. Exterior, space. Now. Earth hangs silently in the void. At the speed of light, zoom in on the planet until we come to rest on an Aboriginal man in the Australian outback. He coughs into his hand and looks down to see a few drops of blood. Interior doll factory day. As one of the menacing Russian henchmen approaches the handcuffed Agent 355, she kicks him in the knee, painfully hyperextending the joint. He collapses. 355 uses the momentum to fall backward and slide free of her chair. With her hands still cuffed behind her, she wheel kicks her to her feet, only to find the Russian businessman with his gun pressed to her temple. 355 closes her eyes and prepares for the worst when this man suddenly begins to cough violently. She watches in disbelief as he begins to vomit blood. The businessman drops his gun and 355's baton to grab at his own throat as he suddenly begins to bleed out of his eyes, nose, ears. His henchmen soon follow suit. 355 can only watch in stunned confusion as the Russian terrorists die painful deaths, leaving her all alone in the quiet factory. Interior, Tokyo Stock Exchange, morning. A lonely secretary screams in terror as hundreds of Japanese businessmen begin to bleed out of every orifice in a tsunami of crimson. Exterior, streets of Ramallah, night. As male soldiers begin to drop left and right, Rachel pulls out a hypodermic and screams in Hebrew at her fellow soldiers.
It's an attack! Use your atropine!
But before she can inject herself, Alter grabs the young soldier's wrist. No, this can't be gas. It's just the men. Interior, the Vatican, evening. A group of nuns scream at each other in Italian as they carry the lifeless bodies of several Catholic priests. Exterior, Cleveland Park, day. As the male contingent of the morning rush collapses to the sidewalk, pushes in on Victoria, who sets down her chess piece and smiles. Exterior, Amsterdam's red light district, evening. Scantily clad prostitutes press against the glass of their storefront windows to look out at the Johns bleeding out across the street of the Netherlands. Interior, lab, morning. As her male lab animals writhe in pain and enraged, Dr. Mann picks up a heavy glass beaker and throws it against the wall. Exterior, Mombasa, Kenya, dusk. A female giraffe standing over the body of her lifeless mate as a train spectacularly derails in the background. Interior, plain, day. As frightened female passengers cry and scream, Beth pushes her way past her now deceased aisle mate to accost a catatonic flight attendant. The suddenly pilotless plane rocks to one side, knocking Beth into the woman.
We have to get inside that cockpit.
What's the point? This is the rapture. God didn't choose us.
What are you talking about? This is some kind of germ warfare. Why would God only take men?
Because we're the daughters of Eve. We created sin when we tempted Adam in the...
A furious Beth pulls the flight attendant close to her face by the front of her uniform and whispers an inch from her face.
Listen to me, you dumb bitch. Will you pull yourself together and help us land this plane, or me and every woman in this cabin will kick the living shit out of you in hell?
The flight attendant stares at her blankly. Interior, Johnson Space Center, Texas, day. A frantic female NASA scientist rushes past her recently deceased mission control colleagues to attend to hundreds of flashing lights.
Houston, Houston, do you read?
Interior, Yorick's apartment day. Yorick is startled by the sound of distant crash, followed by muffled screams outside his door. Carrying Ampersand on his shoulder, he nervously steps into his hallway, only to see his transgendered landlord collapsed on the floor. Her long wig is lying in a puddle of blood.
Rihanna?
Yorick looks up when he hears faint whimpering on the stairwell. He races over to find the pregnant neighbor woman he spoke with earlier. There's blood rushing down her legs, and she's cradling something that we can't quite see in her arms.
I lost him, Yorick.
Hearing cries of help coming from the street, Yorick reluctantly leaves this woman to step outside. There, he's greeted by a dead mailman, a dead delivery boy, a dead homeless man, and much, much more male carnage. Women run in fear and confusion as a plane smashes into an aircraft traffic control tower in the background. Horrified beyond words, Yorick can only cover his mouth while the animal on his shoulder screams. White text on black. Why? The last man. Exit streets of Washington, D.C. night. This suburban street is crowded with crashed cars. A large sign reads, "Ladies, dusk to dawn, curfew strictly enforced." Pull out to reveal a lone figure. This person is holding one of those small animal carriers for little dogs and wearing a hooded poncho and gas mask, not unlike the one we saw in certain emergency preparedness kit earlier. It's Yorick. Suddenly, a blaring horn is heard as the disguised Yorick dives out of the way to avoid being hit by an out-of-control garbage truck which careens into a nearby tree. White text on black. Washington, D.C., 6 weeks later. A dazed woman steps out of the truck's smoking cab. By all accounts, she's a supermodel, a stunningly gorgeous 19-year-old woman wearing the odd combination of fashionably tight attire and heavy-duty work gloves.
Oh my God, lady, are you okay?
Fine.
Are you sure? What's wrong with your voice?
The wind knocked out of me.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I just started driving this thing and I still suck at braking. Doesn't exactly handle like my old Miata, you know. I should probably...
The supermodel walks around to the back of her garbage truck and reacts with disappointment.
Shit.
What?
They fell out.
Cut to the back of the truck where several badly decomposed male corpses have fallen out of the vehicle.
Oh, Christ, they're all
Yeah, yep, they're all mine. But if you give me a quick hand with these dudes, I might consider sharing the profits.
This is your job?
I know, right? It's been more than a month and there's still a ton of single dudes rotting in their apartments.
She starts dragging one of the lighter corpses.
Everyone's worried about diseases and shit, so the CDC pays me a can of food for every corpse I bring in. Only work I could find. Fucked up, right?
Yorick picks up his animal carrier and looks inside to make sure its occupant is still safe. A little monkey's paw reaches out before Yorick pushes it back in.
I used to have a modeling contract with Wilhelmina, and now I'm a goddamn garbage girl. Worst part is, I spent $3,000 on my boobs 2 days before the plague hit. Far let good our hits do us now.
What do you do with these bodies?
Oh, I might take them over to RFK. No one's using the stadium anymore, so they turned it into one of those, whatchamacallits out of crematoriums.
Yorick tries not to puke.
Hey, you all right? You take a few breaths, okay? You don't have to wear that mask anymore, you know? Whatever wiped them out could have hurt us. We'd be dead already.
The masked figure turns and walks from the confused model, leaving her alone with her work.
Yeah, but better safe than sorry.
Exterior large house night. Later that evening, the masked figure arrives at an expensive home, completely unlit thanks to the lack of electricity. Interior large house. Yorick pushes his way inside the dark foyer. He finally takes off his mask, revealing a few days' worth of stubble.
Hello? Is anybody?
Without warning, a figure steps out of the shadows and clocks Yorick in the head with a heavy mag flashlight.
Oh, son of a bitch!
Yorick rubs his head as he turns to see the woman he'll soon learn is his mother, Congresswoman Jennifer Brown.
Literally, I guess.
The woman turns on the flashlight to get a better look at the young man she just struck.
Yorick? Is that you?
Hi, Mom.
The Congresswoman drops her flashlight and embraces her son.
I prayed every second, Yorick. I prayed every second for you, but I never thought.
I'm sorry. It took me weeks just to get out of New York.
Yorick's mother begins to weep tears of joy. She hugs him again, stroking his hair so hard she almost pulling it out.
Tell me this is real, please. I can't live through another goddamn dream like this, Yorick. I can't.
It's real. Look, I checked on all my friends. David and Jeff and Dan and Jay and...
And are you...
The only one? I guess so. Unless Dad... I mean, Daddy still...
Congresswoman Brown wipes away her tears and gives her son a look that clearly says no.
Damn it. God damn it. God damn it!
Yorick punches a wall as hard as he can. He collapses to the floor, taking a seat next to his pet carrier. Yorick dries his eyes with the back of a sleeve.
Thought maybe that it was hereditary. I thought whatever kept me alive might have...
Suddenly, the door to the pet carrier springs open and Ampersand comes scurrying out. Yorick's mom reacts with the same way that everyone does to this animal.
Jesus! What the hell is that?
His name is Ampersand. Look, I'm trained to be a helper monkey. I was, anyway.
Him? But the NSA says every male mammal.
I don't know. Whatever kept me alive must have also shielded this guy.
Or maybe that animal is carrying something that shielded you from whatever killed all the other men.
Huh. Guess I hadn't considered that.
Yorick's mom subtly shakes her head. She loves this kid, but he clearly hasn't thought through his situation.
Yeah, whatever. I'm all alone.
We don't know that, honey boy. Have you talked with Beth?
No. She was on a plane when everything went down, and there were pieces of 747 strewn everywhere. I mean, what percentage of pilots were women? Like 4, 5?
Yorick, there's something you should hear.
Top of 31. 30 on the script.
Interior study night. Cut inside the study of the late Professor Brown, where Yorick's mom is playing a message from the family answering machine. Ampersand is sitting on Yorick's shoulder.
You have one saved message.
Wait, your phone still works?
If there's an operator on duty, quiet, my generator doesn't have that much juice left.
Miss Brown, I'm sorry to bother you.
Beth.
I don't know what's going on back on the East Coast, but I just lived through an emergency landing and I'm on my way to LA. I can't get a hold of your son, but if he's still around, I'm sure he'll come to you first. Please don't tell him.
Congresswoman Brown turns off the machine.
I'm going to her.
Don't be absurd, Yorick.
She needs me.
And we'll find someone to bring her to you, but you're potentially this world's most valuable resource. The rest of the government has to know about you, so we can decide what to do next.
What rest of the government, Mom? I mean, who's even in charge here?
President Rice.
Condi?
I don't want to hear any of that misogynist bullshit from you, kid. Other countries didn't collapse under Thatcher and Dira or Meyer, but we're going to hold it together too, okay?
Yeah, but what about like Congress? Aren't like 90% of them dead? I mean, you're the one who always complained that fucking Grundy had more female politicians than us.
And you might be able to help us change that.
How? By locking me in an Oval Office so I can be a stud for however many women you want me to inseminate?
I have no intention of whoring out my own son, Yorick, but you need to be somewhere safe.
Yorick's mom gently pushes her son and his animal outside the study.
Now go upstairs and get some sleep. We'll figure the rest of this out in the morning.
Before closing the door, she tries to reassure Yorick.
Everything's going to be all right, kid. I love you.
Alone now, Yorick turns to look at his empty house. Interior, Yorick's childhood bedroom night. Upstairs, Yorick carries his monkey into his boyhood room, which is lit only by what moonlight streams inside. Yorick notices a few boxes labeled NYU, leftover memories of his last year at college. He opens one of the cardboard containers, pulls out an unframed photograph. It's a picture of him with Beth at a college Halloween party. Yorick is wearing a straitjacket and Beth is dressed in a top hat and fishnet stockings of a magician's assistant. Beth is holding up bunny ears behind the laughing Yorick. He flips the picture over and scribbled on the back is a handwritten note from Beth that reads, Yorick Brown plus Beth DeVille equals drunken magic forever. Yorick smiles, but his happiness fades as he thinks of how far away his best friend is. He clutches the photo against his chest and falls back into his old bed and closes his eyes. Interior, Yorick's childhood bedroom later that night. Smash cut to a few hours later for this image of a sleeping Yorick as his eyes suddenly spring open. We can hear people arguing off screen. A nervous Yorick quietly opens his bedroom door to look down at the verbal fight transpiring in the foyer just below. Interior, foyer, continuing. Downstairs, Yorick's mother is yelling at two athletic-looking female Secret Service agents.
This wasn't part of the deal. You told me you were just going to escort him to the White House.
I'm sorry, ma'am. There just aren't enough Secret Service agents to guarantee his safety there.
Then where are you taking him?
To a classified location.
Like fuck you are. This is my child. I'm not going to let you kidnap him.
Ma'am, please lower your voice. This is above all our heads, so...
Just then, the Secret Service agent looks upstairs and catches a glimpse of Yorick in his bedroom doorway. He immediately slams the door shut.
Take him.
Interior, Yorick's childhood bedroom continuous. Panicking, Yorick throws on his backpack and stuffs Ampersand inside his carrier. His mom's voice can be heard off screen, as can the heavy footsteps of the rapidly approaching agents.
Yorick, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yorick starts to climb out his second-story window, but before he does, he reaches back and grabs the photo of Beth. The two Secret Service agents soon kick open his flimsily locked door, but Yorick has already disappeared. Exterior backyard. Dropping to a concrete patio, Yorick, still carrying Ampersand's case, lands awkwardly and stumbles to his feet. He races for the side of his house where he finds a large shape covered by a white sheet. Yorick yanks it off, revealing an old Harley motorcycle. Frantically, he starts tipping over lawn equipment and nearby bags of plant food looking for its keys.
Come on, Dad, a little help here.
Finally, Yorick cracks open a can of paint, grabs the hidden treasure inside, and jams the key into the bike's ignition. It roars to life as the two SS agents storm outside. The women grab for Yorick, who's riding the bike while carrying Ampersand's cage in his lap, but he deftly outmaneuvers them and races out into the night. Exterior, streets of Washington, D.C., night. Later that evening, Yorick, again wearing his hood and gas mask, weaves through the cluttered DC intersections on his father's old motorcycle. Ampersand's carrier is now tied onto the back of the bike. Confident that he no longer is being followed, he stops at a makeshift roadblock to catch his breath and find his bearings. Suddenly, Yorick hears the sound of singing. He turns to see a funeral procession, hundreds of women marching down the street, carrying candles, flowers, and mementos of their fallen brothers, husbands, and sons. In the middle of the crowd, Yorick spots someone else wearing a gas mask. Could this be another male in disguise? Yorick slows his bike next to this masked figure.
Excuse me. You're not a. Are you a?
The figure pulls off the mask, revealing a weathered 40-something rocker chick. This is Heather.
I know you, sweetie.
Oh, I saw the mask and I thought maybe you were. I thought maybe you were someone I knew.
Sorry. Just got so used to wearing this thing. It kind of became my security blanket. I'm Heather, by the by.
She holds out her hand for Yorick to shake.
I'm Beth. Where are you guys headed?
Oh, they turned one of them monuments into kind of a memorial for all the men.
Which monument?
Guess.
Heather
points up at the nearby Washington Monument, looking particularly phallic in the moonlight.
It's always about size for ladies, isn't it?
Just then, Yorick hears the rumble of more motorcycles as he turns to see a gang of several Daughters of the Amazon circle this ad hoc shrine to men. These post-apocalyptic survivalists have rifles and other weapons slung over their backs, with numerous men's neckties attached to their belts like freshly shorn scalps. Two of these women are wearing full-face helmets.
The hell?
Daughters of the Amazon.
Well, I've only heard rumors. They're like roving packs of pissed off lesbians, right?
They're not gay. They're crazy. Been burning down all the sperm banks.
Why?
Who knows? Some girls will do anything, do any stupid shit to get into a gang, long as it means some food and protection.
Push in on the bikers as one of the helmeted women, the apparent leader, removes her helmet to address the crowd of mourners. It's the female chess grandmaster, Victoria.
Sisters, why do you need to worship at the altar of patriarchy? The gender side is cause for celebration. You rid the planet of rapists and dictators and serial killers. The Y chromosome was a genetic aberration, one the planet rightly expunged.
As the largely frightened crowd scatters, Victoria spots a disguised Yorick in the background. She turns to two of her underlings, Teresa, a young woman with a completely shaved head, and Catherine, another helmeted Amazon.
Teresa, Catherine, a pound of Godiva to whoever brings me that woman's bike.
While the rest of the Daughters of the Amazon begin attaching some kind of electronic device to the base of the Washington Monument, Catherine and Teresa hop on their bikes and speed toward Yorick.
Oh, crap.
Yorick squeezes the throttle and his bike jumps to life. He squeals past a bewildered Heather with the two Amazons in hot pursuit. Zooming down a side street and away from the crowds, Yorick does his best to outrace his two pursuers. But Teresa, the bald one, pulls out a handgun and fires at Yorick's back tire, causing his bike to lose control and spark to a painful halt on its chromed side. Ampersand whines from the inside of his carrier as Yorick pulls himself out from under the bike.
Oh, how do you think I feel?
Yorick looks up to see the two Daughters of the Amazon standing over him. Teresa has her gun trained on his face.
I'll take that mask too, whore.
I can't. I'm sorry. I can't.
The helmeted rider begs Yorick to be sensible.
Just do what she says, lady.
Reluctantly, Yorick peels off the gas mask, and the two women react with appropriate shock and awe to his stubbled face.
You're...
Yorick stands and puts on his best female impersonator voice.
It's just glandular, okay?
You have an Adam's apple.
Teresa steps forward and puts a hand down the front of Yorick's pants.
Hey, what are you?
He's a man! But just barely.
Yorick pulls away, offended.
You gonna do rape me?
Don't flatter yourself. I'm taking you to my boss.
No, you're not.
Teresa turns to see Catherine's gun in her face.
Jesus, Catherine. We can split the fucking chocolate.
Catherine finally removes her helmet, revealing she's actually Agent 355.
My name's not Catherine.
What are you talking about? We've been bunking with you for a week.
Without hesitating, 355 pistol whips Teresa, instantly knocking the girl out. Yorick flinches in fear as 355 aims the gun at him, but she instead fires at the front tire of Teresa's bike before jumping back on her own motorcycle.
Hop on.
Like out, warrior princess.
I'm not an Amazon. I'm an agent of the Culper Ring.
Yorick picks up his carrier to make sure that Ampersand is safe.
The what?
Forget it. We should go before the fireworks begin.
What fireworks?
Suddenly, a deafening explosion is heard, and Yorick turns just in time to watch the Washington Monument topple on its side, felled like a marbled redwood. As dust from the demolition spreads their way, Yorick matter-of-factly climbs onto 355's bike.
Right, and away we go.
Interior, Tel Aviv Command Center, morning. Cut to an Israeli war room where countless young female cadets man phone banks and computer screens. Rachel is looking up at a big map of the Middle East with her commander, Alter. This display shows heavy troop movements out of Israel and into Lebanon, Syria, and Egypt.
When does it end?
When our people are safe.
Our people are safe, Alter. Thanks to you. But we no longer have their support. The women want security, not world domination.
Security must be earned, Rachel.
It was already given to us when the boys died. Israel has more combat-ready soldiers than any nation on the planet now, and you know it. And have every teenage girl in Tel Aviv eavesdropping on 192 badly fractured governments, and unless the 3 girls on board that Australian submarine declined to invade the Mediterranean, there are no more threats to us.
Suddenly, a girl wearing headphones calls Alter over to her listening station.
Lieutenant General Solon, I have something.
Alter gives Rachel a knowing look. On speaker, soldier. Over the tiny speaker, the voice of one of the female Secret Service agents is heard.
I've not been drinking, Madam President. Congresswoman Brown's son is alive, and now he's somewhere out there.
Another delusional crackpot.
Perhaps, but all it would take is our enemies finding a single boy for them to resurrect their entire armies.
What? You're not seriously considered wasting resources on some wild goose chase, are you?
Alter shoots Rachel daggers before pulling the young woman aside to quietly lecture her. You're welcome to question me, Colonel, but never in front of my troops. I'm your friend, but I'm also your superior.
You may have asked for this career, Lieutenant General, but I'm just a lowly film student serving her time on your stopgap.
So what? You want to make bullshit romantic comedies to sedate the helpless widows? Rachel looks up at the big map with a hint of sadness. Or do you want to save the world? Exterior, interstate, night. The motorcycle that 355 and Yorick are riding slows to a halt next to a pickup truck. The two dismount.
You ever siphoned before?
Kind of a personal question, don't you think? Mind if I ask your name before I start spilling my sexual history?
355 pulls out a small length of rubber hose and goes to work transferring fuel from the truck to her motorcycle.
You can call me 355.
355? What is that, some kind of 007 thing?
It's classified.
Hearing that word again, Yorick suddenly grows nervous.
You're not part of the Secret Service, are you?
We're a hell of a lot more secret than that.
What does that mean?
I told you, I'm not allowed to.
355 stops herself.
Fuck it. What's the point, right? My bosses are all dead.
Yorick actually looks a little relieved to hear this.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, not cool, but I was worried that you were.
355 is the code name assigned to this country's first female spy. She was part of the General Washington's culprit ring during the Revolutionary War.
Surprise.
You wouldn't have learned this in AP history, but Washington never disbanded the culprit ring. For more than 200 years, we've been secretly working to protect men and women of this country.
Yorick looks at a corpse inside one of the nearby vehicles.
You're doing a bang-up job.
355 spits out gasoline.
What's your story?
So far, it's a pretty crappy mystery.
So you have no clue why you're the last guy.
Your guess is as lame as mine. I'm Yorick, by the way.
355 just shoots him a look. You thought my name was weird?
My dad taught drama. I guess he thought naming his kid after an obscure Shakespearean character would help him get tenure.
The culprit ring agents finishes putting away her siphoning gear.
Well, it's a good thing I found you when I did. You wouldn't survive another month out there on your own. The Amazon movement is growing, and these women would love nothing more than killing someone like you.
Why? I mean, I can see locking me up, but if those violent femmes off the last man, wouldn't they be sort of ensuring the death of the fairer sex too?
I infiltrated their organization to find out if they had anything to do with whatever caused the global manslaughter. They're smart enough to exploit it, but I don't think they started it. Unfortunately for you, they do have a plan to keep humanity going.
355 jumps back on the refueled bike.
And it's strictly no boys allowed.
Interior Georgetown Lecture Hall night. Having finished their work at the Washington Monument, the Daughters of the Amazon have returned to this brightly lit, peaceful lecture hall where they're passing out free power bars to the starving women funneling through the doors. On stage, Victoria is addressing these new recruiters while standing next to a large projected image of a human egg.
Parthenogenesis, the development of an embryo without fertilization by a male. It's every woman's dream, the joy of creation without having to endure the most painful part of childbirth, marriage.
A few of the hardcores laugh at this as Victoria changes the slide to an image of Dr. Mann.
It's no longer science fiction, thanks to the pioneering work of this woman, bioengineer Dr. Allison Mann. By injecting a single cell into one egg, she could help us give birth to our own twins. Can you imagine a society of daughters brought into this world without the poisonous seed of man? We find this woman, and the battle of the sexes is won.
Victoria.
Victoria looks out to see Teresa, her bald follower. The girl kneels as she enters the room.
Off your knees, Teresa. You know we're all equals here.
Dutifully, Teresa rises.
What happened out there? Are you all right?
You have to put out a dragnet, Victoria. I saw one. I saw a man.
Close on Victoria, suspicious but not disbelieving. Exterior Baltimore shipping yards dawn. Early the next morning, 355 walks her empty motorcycle along a dirt road. A gas mask clad Yorick is strolling beside her with Ampersand on his shoulder.
So you're going to Frisco to find this doctor before Mad Maxine does?
That's the plan. Hopefully Dr. Mann will be able to tell us why you and your animals survived too.
Yorick grows nervous.
Actually, I kind of have a prior engagement, so to speak. Ampersand and I are headed to Los Angeles to find Beth.
Who the hell is that?
The woman I trust more than my own mother? Well, these days, anyway.
Yorick, you have a responsibility. We can look for your girlfriend after we see if there's anything you can do for the human race.
I appreciate the offer, 3, but I'm not looking for a chaperone. I handled myself fine out there before you came into the...
Quiet.
Ampersand loudly eeks as 355 points at a grizzly straight up ahead, 3 snarling wolves gnawing on the remains of a male corpse. As the growling animals approach them, a frightened Yorick casually steps behind 355. She quickly dispatches the killer wolves with a warning shot fired above their heads. A grateful Yorick suddenly looks a little more amenable to the idea of a traveling partner.
Okay, let's say I did opt to come with you. How are you getting to Cali?
First, I have to sell our bike. The plague hit a rush hour out west, so the highways will be too congested with dead guys, even for a motorcycle.
But commercial aircraft have all gone the way of boy bands. How are we going cross-country?
The old-fashioned way.
355 and Yorick finally reach a train yard where hundreds of American women are lined up like refugees, vying for a spot on board an impossibly long diesel train.
Girls have been trading tampons and vibrator batteries for seats in first class, but these wheels should buy us some room and cargo.
The masked Yorick stares at this overgrown train set, unable to hide his boyish enthusiasm.
Cool.
Push into the bustling crowd where a female scout clearly dressed in the garb of the Amazon subtly watches Yorick and 355's every move. Exterior diesel train night. Later that evening, the packed diesel train chugs out of Maryland. The landscape is peppered with large pieces of wreckage from various passenger jets that crashed in the minutes following the plague. Interior freight car continuing. Push inside a freight car, which is filled with boxes of cargo, but only 2 passengers, 355 and an unmasked Yorick. The duo was quietly eating out of cans. Yorick is feeding most of his share to Ampersand.
God, I've eaten so many canned pizzas over the last few months. I think I shat a cobbler last night.
Disgusted, 355 sets down her food. Yorick checks out the car's sparse interior.
So we're gonna have to sleep in this thing, huh? Hobo-tastic.
Sorry I couldn't get us booked in the 4 Seasons.
You know, I actually stayed there one night. After the plague, right before I left to find my mom. Slept in the presidential suite.
Why?
Because I could, I guess. It's mostly sad, though. The whole place was packed with homeless women, and they didn't exactly seem distraught about the turn of events, you know? Made me wonder if this whole thing happened for a reason. You know, and the meek shall inherit the earth and all that.
355 glares at him half-jokingly.
What are you calling meek?
Ignoring this, Yorick stands and looks out at the car's open door at the unlit scenery passing by.
Man, no idea where we're at now. All these towns look the same in the dark. Is it that hard for ladies to turn on some lights?
Electricity doesn't come through the sockets magically, Yorick. It takes a lot of manpower, human power, to operate all the plants and substations. Energy was a male-dominated industry, but other than culper ring agents, we are out there trying to fill the void.
So you weren't the only girl in your club?
Men held administrative positions, but the culper's undercover agents were all women.
Why go the Charlie's Angels route?
355 stands to stretch her legs.
Because men can think with their brains or with their penises, but not with both. We have better relationships with our bodies. Makes us stronger in the field.
Sure, as long as that field doesn't contain Mike Tyson.
We're not always as physically powerful, but there's a reason the best rock climbers are women. We've got you beat in flexibility, agility, and problem solving.
Yeah, I've seen this sitcom. You're all great and we suck at everything.
Not everything. You ever been to a nursing home? Notice how it's 90% old women? Same with suicide. We might attempt it more, but you guys usually succeed.
So what, you're saying the one thing men are better at than women is dying?
You're ahead of us so
355
far.
looks out at the darkness. Exterior Black Hawk helicopter, dawn. Cut to the next morning as a fleet of stolen Black Hawk helicopters flies past the rising sun. Interior Black Hawk helicopter, continuous. Cut inside the passenger section of one of these attack choppers as Alter and Rachel talk to each other over radio headsets. They're alone here, so Rachel can speak freely.
I'm still not sure how wise it was to steal vehicles from our most loyal ally.
The US military isn't an ally, Rachel. It's a distant memory. All of their brass is dead, and the girls they coddled and refused to let fight are stranded in foreign theaters. Besides, the end justifies the means. The troop transport we used to fly to the States was too slow and unwieldy to keep up with the elusive Mr.
Rachel consults her small field book.
Brown, Yorick. Our intelligence has nothing on him outside of a social security number and 3 posts of his old blog. He's a zilch, Alter. If Yorick's really the last, God didn't exactly leave us a Moses, did he?
The fact that you still believe in a higher power after all this is charming.
Rachel listens to something coming over her headphones.
Shuttlebug on the ground. Is that a young man was recently spotted in DC, but unsubstantiated male sightings are more common than corpses these days. So I continue to question the wisdom of all this.
My gut says Yorick is alive, Rachel.
Let's say he is. And let's say we abduct the Americans' only son. You realize they'll go to war to get him back.
We should be so lucky.
What does that mean?
You saw what happened at the Temple Mount a few months ago, didn't you? Between our own people, the rioting, the fist fights.
Yeah, well, the ultra-Orthodox women interpret the men's death a little differently than the rest of us.
The fighting didn't begin in earnest until the Israeli Defense Forces sedated our Arab neighbors. As soon as we removed all of Israel's external threats, the internal conflict that's been simmering for years finally came to a boil.
The helicopter banks into the sun.
The same will happen to our friends in the States soon enough. Without an outside evil for its citizens to hate, poor will turn against rich, white against black.
What are you suggesting? That the only way to protect peace in our time is to invent a war? What the hell kind of plan is that?
Alter smiles a little Mona Lisa grin.
A very old, reliable one.
Interior freight car morning. Open tight on a sleeping Yorick who's jolted awake as the stop train begins to move. He bolts upright and is relieved to see 355 sitting across from him with Ampersand on her shoulder. Strangely enough, the Culper Ring agent is knitting.
What are you working on? Rifle cozy?
Just keeping my hands busy.
The train quickly picks up full speed.
How long were we stopped?
A few hours. Crew had to remove a herd of dead cows from the tracks.
Bulls.
Sorry?
All cows are females. Any dead cattle were probably bulls.
355 scrunches up her nose as she points at Yorick's shirt.
Yeah, well, speaking of rotting livestock.
Oh, sorry. I haven't changed my shirt since I got to Washington.
You want to borrow one of mine? Say what you will about the Daughters of the Amazon, but their laundry skills are phenomenal.
355 takes a fresh dress shirt out of her bag.
Third time you saved my life, 350.
Yorick pulls off his dirty t-shirt and 355 can't help but check out his body. Surprisingly, the seemingly scrawny young man actually has a pretty good build. 355 quickly looks away as Yorick starts putting on the new shirt.
Am I having a stroke or are these buttons suddenly on the wrong side?
It's a woman's shirt, Yorick. Deal with it.
Since when are your buttons on the left?
Since buttons were invented, guys used to carry swords, so the left side of the jacket had to close over the right. so he could draw without his blade getting caught in something.
Yorick continues to stupidly fumble with his buttons, and 355 comes over to help him.
Ladies had servants who did their dressing for them, so putting buttons on the left made it easier for them.
That was then, huh?
The two look at each other's eyes for a moment. They're only inches apart here. Suddenly, Ampersand, sitting on a crate in the background, interrupts this near-romantic moment with his screeching.
Settle down, Amp. What's got you so...
355 ears perk up too. Her expression is grave.
You hear that?
What is it?
The sound of 100 women's cycles syncing up.
Exterior diesel train continued. Outside, the train is now being pursued by dozens of motorcycles being ridden by the heavily armed daughters of the Amazon. Victoria is in the pole position as her troops begin to leap off their bikes and board the moving freighter's caboose, like a modern-day train robbery. Interior caboose. As Victoria and her followers climb inside, this rear car's female passengers scream and clutch their possessions.
We mean you no harm, sisters. We're simply here to liberate you from the last of your oppressors.
Interior freight car continuous. 355 is looking out her freight car's open side door as the last of the Amazons board the rear of the train. She pulls her head back inside and slides the door closed behind her.
How bad?
355 pulls a sawed-off shotgun out of her bag and hands it to Yorick.
Depends on how many of these crates have ammo in them.
We're gonna fight them, 3?
No, I'm gonna hold them off for as long as I can while you make a break for the conductor. Tell her to disconnect the engine from the rest of the cars. She gives you any trouble, put that scattergun to her head.
But you said it yourself, I can't make it to California on my own. I need you out there.
Push in on 355 as she checks the clip of her handgun.
This isn't a democracy, remember? Consider it payback for all the years women weren't allowed to vote.
You know, I'm big into suffrage.
355 turns to see that Yorick is aiming his shotgun at her head.
Here's the new plan.
Exterior diesel train continuous. The daughters of the Amazon are making their way between cars of the moving train. Teresa, the bald Amazon, takes point and kicks open the small door at the rear of Yorick and 355's car. Her fellow Amazons follow inside, but there's nothing here but big boxes of freight. Yorick and 355 are nowhere to be seen. The women make their way through the car quickly, with Victoria taking up the rear. As her followers exit, Victoria stops dead in her tracks. She looks down and sees a fresh slice of canned peach on the floor of this car. She pulls out her own 357 Magnum and looks around, finally noticing a crate that's recently been opened, one large enough for 2 people to hide inside of. Victoria aims her gun at this box and as she quickly pries open its side. Out come tumbling a dozen cans of peaches, followed by a dozen hungry rats. They scurry across Victoria's feet.
Ah!
Embarrassed by her less than brave reaction, Victoria looks around to make sure none of her women heard it. Finally, she holsters her weapon and prepares to exit the car. But just then, over the rumble of the tracks, Victoria hears an unfamiliar sound. She looks for its source before finally staring up the ceiling of the car. Exterior freight car roof continuous. Cut onto this car's roof where 355 and Yorick are hiding. Yorick is frantically trying to shut up Ampersand, who's screeching his little head off up there.
Exactly who is that thing supposed to be helping?
Yorick stuffs the monkey into his backpack.
It's not my fault. He's fucking learning disabled or something.
Men never were very good teachers.
355 and Yorick spin around to see Victoria standing behind them on this moving train. A trigger-happy Yorick attempts to load a shell onto his sawed-off shotgun by flipping it by its handle, Terminator 2 style. But sadly, as he spins it, the weapon goes flying out of his hand and pinwheeling over the side of the train.
Son of a...
355 is about to draw her weapon when Victoria warns.
I don't have to kill you both, you know.
355 keeps her handgun at her side, but chivalrously steps in front of a clearly grateful Yorick.
Yeah, you do.
Teresa tells me you're not who you said you were, Catherine. That's fine. We're all welcome to remake ourselves in this brave new world. But don't tell me that you didn't believe what I had to say.
355 listens silently.
I looked into your eyes. I saw the way men have hurt you. It's time to stop protecting our abusers like helpless, battered wives. We have to step aside and let evolution take its course.
Slowly, reluctantly, 355 steps aside, leaving Yorick exposed, not to mention confused. Victoria again aims her gun at Yorick.
Thank you, sister. You'll be able to tell your granddaughters that you were there to witness the fall of man.
Truer words.
All of a sudden, 355 grabs Yorick and yanks him over the side of the moving train with her. Whole way out as the train barrels across a large bridge. 355 and Yorick are just tiny figures here, falling 100 feet before splashing into a river far below. Victoria watches in disbelief as Teresa and a few of her fellow Amazons join their leader atop the train.
Victoria, are you?
I'm fine.
And the man?
History.
Exterior wooded area magic hour. Cut to later that early evening as Sonia, an attractive 19-year-old vixen with tattoos and piercings, carries 2 buckets of water along the bank of a river. Sonia stops in her tracks when she sees Ampersand sitting on top of a backpack that's washed up against a stone. She approaches the little Capuchin monkey slowly, careful not to frighten it.
Where do you come from, little guy? Guess they must have opened up the zoos like they opened up our...
Sonia drops her 2 pails as she notices something else that washed ashore. It's Yorick, waterlogged and unconscious but alive.
Thank you, Jesus.
Interior bedroom evening. We're looking through Yorick's POV. As he opens his eyes, a blurry figure looming over him slowly takes shape.
Beth?
Rack focuses to reveal that this is actually Sonia.
Who's Beth?
Ah!
Yorick sits up to find that he's in Sonia's messy bedroom, lying in her bed. His clothes are dry now.
What is this?
Take it easy.
Who are you?
My name's Sonia. I found you with your pet.
Ampersand eeks over Sonia's dresser.
Where did you come from, Yorick?
How the hell did you know my name?
Your library card? I didn't even know people still carried.
Oh my God, 355. Is she?
Do you mean her?
Sonia points across the hall through an open door to another bedroom, where Agent 355 is sleeping peacefully.
She's fine. Bit of a bump on the head, but she should be all right. What happened, Yorick? I just found you out there like Thomas Newton or something.
Yorick's confused.
The man who fell to earth?
Seriously? Kind of the book of the movie.
Both, I guess. Mostly Bowie, to be honest.
Yorick's almost starting to fall for this girl when he notices Ampersand playing with his ring box. Feeling guilty, Yorick gets up to snatch it away.
That's cool.
Anyway, we figure you must be some kind of genetic anomaly, like those prostitutes in Africa that are immune to HIV.
Huh, I hadn't... Well, what do you mean we?
Sonia walks over to the window of this second-story bedroom.
Yorick, this is a town of 67 gossiping women. Do you really think I could keep something like you a secret?
Yorick joins her at the window and looks out to see all 67 women, a collection of various ages and races, but no children, gathered below. They're looking up at him expectantly. Yorick sighs. Interior Black Hawk helicopter evening. Back inside the passenger hold of Alter's helicopter, she and Rachel speak to each other over their headsets.
We might have a hit, Alter. 60 clicks due south. Girls in the listening stations back home are reporting a lot of chatter about a 20-something male washing ashore in a little town called Marysville.
Good work. We'll pay a visit right after we refuel.
Actually, we should probably send as many choppers as we can now.
Why? You honestly think some undersexed American will be in a hurry to leave an entire village of lonely women?
That's not my concern, Lieutenant General. I'm worried about who these women happen to be.
Exterior Sonia's home evening. Back at Sonia's place, Yorick's new friend escorts him outside. She introduces him to the town, which stares at this last man with a mixture of disbelief and mistrust.
Marysville? This is Yorick. Yorick, this is Marysville.
Yorick waves shyly. Nina, a middle-aged Hispanic woman, gives Yorick a once-over.
You really the last?
I don't know. I think so.
Sonia leads Yorick through the crowd of gawkers.
Is it just me, or are there no kids in this town?
I guess I'm the youngest one. Yeah, come on. You want to help me in the hydroponic greenhouse?
You have food? Fresh food?
Sure. Why so surprised?
Just almost every post-plague town I've been to has looked like the third act of a Godzilla movie.
Yorick looks up at the town's working street lamps.
You guys still have a perfect little utopia.
I don't know about that, but we did vote to slaughter one of the lambs for you tonight. Don't feel guilty. Lydia wants us to get rid of them anyway before the damn flies eat them alive.
Lydia?
Suddenly, an elderly white woman steps out of the crowd. This is Lydia.
Hard to believe that helpless little women can get by without your kind, huh?
Oh, I didn't mean to disrespect.
We've all had plenty of experience making do without any men around.
Nina steps forward to try to silence Lydia, but the old lady's on a roll.
Lydia. Back in 42, the only fellas left in this country were the goddamn 4 effers trying to get into our overalls. Girls weren't part of the workforce. We were the workforce. If none of our boys had come home alive, we could run this place just fine on our own. Better even.
Back up. You said you all had experience living without men. How? I mean, most of you were a little too young to have been doing the Rosie the Riveter thing, right?
Maybe Lydia can explain herself after we fix you some supper.
Sonia starts to pull Yorick away, but Nina calls after him.
Kid, the black girl up there, she your wife?
No, I mean, she's a friend, but three's good people. She's kind of a government agent, but on the down low, you know?
As Sonia and Yorick walk away, Nydia and Lydia exchange nervous glances. Exterior greenhouse night. Cut to a few minutes later for this establishing shot of an impressive greenhouse. Its windows are fogged with condensation, so we can't quite see inside. Interior greenhouse continuing. Sonia and Yorick enter the well-lit facility, which is now filled with fresh flowers and vegetables. They are alone now.
So you and your neighbors all seem pretty close-knit. Do you mind, can I ask, are you all, not that I care, but...
Some are, but it'd take a hell of a lot more than all the men dying to make me suddenly eat pussy.
Well, you don't beat around the bush, as it were.
No, I don't.
Suddenly, Sonia pulls Yorick close and kisses him deeply. Yorick pushes her away, but only eventually.
Wait, Sonia.
What? Oh my God. Are you gay?
What? No, not at all.
Oh, 'cause talk about irony.
No, it's just, there's someone else.
But you said your bodyguard...
Yorick pulls out his photo of Beth, which he hands over to Sonia.
No, my fiance's name is Beth. We were on our way to find her. She's in Los Angeles.
Must be hard.
Sonia sets aside the photo and presses herself against Yorick.
It is.
but Yorick gently pulls away from her.
Look, I'm flattered, but for some dumb reason, I was picked to survive all this, and I'm trying to not take advantage of that situation.
You're not taking advantage of anything, Yorick.
But I would be. See, Beth was my first. You know, she's the only woman alive who wanted me back when I was an unemployed loser. If nothing else, I owe her a little loyalty.
Sonia steps forward and runs her fingers through Yorick's hair.
I'm sure lots of girls wanted you back then. They just didn't know how to tell you.
Again, she kisses him, harder this time. The two fall backwards onto one of the greenhouse tables. Sonia is on top of Yorick, who's clearly wrestling with more than just his conscience.
Please, you have to get off.
I'm trying.
She kisses him again.
Beth,
We'll never know. Besides, this isn't about her. It's about you helping the planet, and the only way you can do that is by sowing your seed, right?
I love her.
You think JFK didn't love Jackie? You think MLK didn't love Coretta? Great men fuck around on their wives, Yorick, and whether you like it or not, you're the greatest man alive now.
Sonia writhes against Yorick, who's struggling to be good.
Please.
Yorick?
Sonia and Yorick look up to see a relatively recuperated Agent 355 standing in the doorway of this greenhouse. Ampersand is on her shoulder.
You all right?
Sonia and Yorick quickly pull themselves apart, like two teens caught making out at Lover's Leap.
It's cool. We're done here.
I'm so sorry. I don't know what came over me.
Yorick, may I borrow you for a second?
Exterior greenhouse. 355 drags the embarrassed last man outside. As Yorick finishes buckling his pants, Amp jumps onto his shoulder.
Look, whatever you saw in there.
I don't care. We have to get out of here.
Right now? I mean, this town is a wonderland. We should at least stock up on provisions and...
These people aren't what you think, Yorick. They're...
That's far enough. Oh, crap.
Cut over to Nina, Lydia, and several of the other residents of Marysville. They all have hunting rifles trained on Yorick and 355.
I'm afraid we can't let some spy rat us out to the feds.
355 shoots Yorick a dirty look.
Does the secret agent mean anything to you?
What is this, some kind of militia?
There's a women's penitentiary about a mile up the road, Yorick.
What, you mean they're convicts?
Escaped convicts, technically.
Yorick turns just as Sonia walks out of the greenhouse.
When all the men died, the warden decided to turn us loose instead of letting us starve to death in our cells.
The other women close in on Yorick and 355.
Guards lived in the houses we're in now. They took off weeks ago. Guess they couldn't stand staying where their kin passed. None of us wanted to get out like this, but it happened. The other inmates and I all get along pretty well, and we've been taking good care of ourselves for years already, so this community just kind of fell into place.
What'd you do? Murder someone?
Robbed a bank for a guy. Long story.
Lydia aims her rifle at Yorick.
If you're looking for a killer, you got one. I shot my bastard of husband in 59 and I don't regret it for a goddamn second.
Sonia walks over to Lydia and pushes her rifle down.
Please, we just want to live in peace.
This isn't my jurisdiction, and we have no intention of telling anyone about your situation.
Why should we believe some spook?
355 starts to lose her cool, so it's Yorick's turn to play peacemaker.
For your sake, I hope you're talking about my occupation and not my race.
Look, let's just pretend tonight never happened, okay? Look, 355 and I have bigger things to worry about, so we're just gonna...
Suddenly, Yorick is illuminated from directly overhead by a burning, bright spotlight. He looks up, half expecting to see a mothership here to take him home. A whirlwind kicks up the dirt to reveal 3 Black Hawk helicopters descend into view.
It's a setup!
No, I have nothing to do with this.
Like the word of God, a familiar voice booms from the heavens over one of the chopper's loudspeakers. It's Alter.
Women of Marysville, this is not your fight. Hand over the boy and no one will be harmed.
As the helicopters circle to land in a nearby field, a baffled Yorick turns to 355.
Why does everyone keep calling me boy? I'm a college grad.
Whatever.
Nina again swings her rifle at 355's direction.
Damn it, whatever. We're not fighting an army. They can take you both for all I care.
The Israeli military want with me.
If it was anything good, they probably would have brought their one gunship. Please, if you hand Yorick over to another country, you people will never know another peaceful day.
If we don't, we'll never know another day, period.
Sonia suddenly steps in front of Yorick and 355.
Run. They're probably landing by the orchard, so you've still got a few minutes. Take Lewis to Montecito. No street lamps there, so you'll have some cover for a getaway. Have you lost your head, girl?
Sonia looks at Yorick with sad eyes.
We still owe a debt to society, and without someone like him, there might not be another one.
355 nods gratefully before dragging Yorick away from the scene. As he's being pulled away, Yorick calls after Sonia.
Wait, Sonia, come with us.
Sonia just watches with regret as the man who fell to earth disappears into darkness.
Goodbye, Yorick.
Exterior suburban streets, night. 355 and Yorick run through the unlit outskirts of this neighborhood. A windowed Yorick is falling out of his Chuck Taylors.
Keep up, goddammit!
Totally. Not running shoes.
As the two round the corner, they run smack into another Black Hawk helicopter, this one parked in the middle of the street. 3 female IDF soldiers all drop their cigarettes and raise their machine guns as they spot Yorick and his bodyguard.
4 gunships?
The youngest Israeli soldier looks for guidance from her older superiors.
What do we do?
We take the male alive, but kill anyone who...
That's all 355 needs to hear as she raises her weapon and fires it at the 2 older soldiers, killing them both instantly. Yorick screams in fear and revulsion. 355 aims her Glock at the youngest soldier. She's frozen in terror and squeezes the trigger. Nothing. The gun's empty. With trembling hands, the young soldier aims her sidearm at 355.
Freeze?
355 instead tosses her own weapon aside and charges directly at the young female soldier. The soldier fires wildly as the screaming Culper Ring agent rushes her. 355 eventually tackles the soldier, knocking her to the ground, and the two wrestle over the Israeli's firearm as the young soldier struggles with what few English phrases she remembers.
Let go of the gun, please.
Oh, what the kasha?
You don't have to die.
Take me to my hotel. How much does this cost, please? Where's the library? Which train?
Bang. Push in close on the 2 women as one of them is shot. 355 stands as the young soldier rattles her last breath. Culper Ring agent looks over at Yorick, who promptly vomits all over his own shoes.
Come on.
Why did you?
Me or them. Let's go.
They were girls! You're such a fucking marksman. You could have just wounded them or...
This isn't a comic book, Yorick. They knew what they were doing when they filled their hands, and so did I. Now get in the chopper.
Now we're stealing helicopters? No, I don't want anything more to do with this.
If you had listened to me in the train, we wouldn't be in this situation. Now do as I fucking say.
Go on without me, 3. Look, I'm tired of people dying. I'm just gonna surrender.
355 aims her weapon at Yorick.
That stopped being your decision the second other countries got involved.
Ampersand barks in protest, but Yorick hangs his head. He's done fighting. In the distance, a faraway gun battle can be heard. Exterior greenhouse night. Sonia and her fellow inmates are waging an epic battle against the incoming army, but there's clearly no match for the Israelis' numbers. As more and more of them take fire, the surviving townswomen eventually lay down their arms and hold up their hands in surrender. Sonia screams in defiance.
Keep fighting. We can take them.
As the shooting dies down, Alter steps out from behind her troops' front line.
Thank you for your attention. The good news is that I have no interest in taking prisoners, so you don't need to fear another incarceration.
Alter pulls out her sidearm and aims it at Nina's head.
The bad news is that I have no objection to field executions.
The rest of the townswomen start to rush to Nina's defense, but the overpowering IDF soldiers back them off.
Tell me where you're hiding Yorick Brown, or I start putting bullets in brain pans.
Sonia drops her rifle and calls out.
Don't! He ran away.
Alter cocks her gun.
Nonsense. I stationed roadblocks at every possible exit.
After consulting with a young female soldier carrying a radio pack, Rachel steps forward to whisper something to Alter.
Alter, North team is dead. One of our snipers saw their chopper being stolen. He thinks she caught a glimpse of a black woman behind the controls.
Alter looks at Rachel in stunned silence for a moment.
Kill them all.
Sonia charges forward and all the IDF soldiers promptly aim their rifles at her.
Wait! I can tell you where he went. He has a girlfriend. In LA. Beth something.
Careful not to make anyone think she's reaching for a gun, Sonia slowly pulls out the photo that Yorick left behind. Alter stares at the picture of this once happy couple with interest. Exterior, American airspace, dawn. Several hours later, 355 stolen Blackhawk soars just above the treetops of Middle America. Interior, stolen Blackhawk. Cut inside the high-tech vehicle's cockpit, where 355 is flying. Yorick is in the passenger seat with Ampersand on his lap.
Yorick, I'm sorry about back there, okay? I never should have pointed a gun at you.
Yeah, well, I guess I opened that door.
A nervous Yorick just silently stares out the window as their craft barely skims the foliage.
I can't believe you really know how to fly this thing.
I told you, the Culper Ring trained me well.
How do you study espionage, exactly? Or some kind of correspondence school?
The Ring recruited me at a foster care facility when I was 13, after I put 2 redneck teenagers in the hospital for calling me names.
Foster care?
My parents were killed when I was 6.
Yorick suddenly looks guilty.
I'm sorry.
Don't be. You weren't driving the truck that night.
You know, before all this, I honestly wasn't sure if your whole undercover sister spiel was legit or if you were, insane.
Yorick, a mentally ill person wouldn't be able to fly a medium-lift assault helicopter below radar at 250 miles per hour.
Suddenly, the chopper dips uncomfortably as one of its extended fuel range tanks accidentally clips a high branch. A frightened Yorick looks down at his diaper-clad monkey who yelps.
Yeah, I'm gonna need a diaper change too, buddy.
355 activates a few controls on her dash.
If you want to help, check that navigation computer and make sure we're on target to San Fran.
We're still headed to see this Attack of the Clones, Doctor?
A few refuelings aside, we should be able to fly straight shot to her lab. It's more important than ever that we find out why you're still alive.
Yeah, but what if Victoria and her goons get to Mann's joint first? We lost some time at Marysville.
Don't worry, the trains are about as dependable as they were in pre-Mussolini Italy. Remember? We'll beat her by days.
Exterior railroad crossing morning. Smash cut to this close-up of a dead male cowboy slumped over the wheel of his pickup. Pull out to reveal that this unlucky corpse's truck is parked directly in the middle of the railroad tracks. Bam! The vehicle is obliterated when a familiar diesel train plows right through it. Interior diesel train engine continuous. Inside the train's engine, Victoria is reading to Teresa, while an overweight female conductor reluctantly works the train's throttle.
With no aspect of society being at all relevant to women, there remains two civic-minded females only to overthrow the government and destroy the male sex. Those are the opening words of the Scum Manifesto, the seminal work of our dear sister Valerie Solanas, a prophet and a...
Ma'am?
Teresa immediately whips out a crowbar, which she uses to threaten the conductor.
Ma'am is short for madam. The mistress who manages a man's household or a whore who enslaves other women. Which one are you saying Victoria is?
Let her speak, Teresa.
I don't mean to start trouble, Victoria, but I'm going to have to stop at the next station to pick up medical supplies for California.
That can wait, sister.
Begging your pardon, but it can't. If you care about women so much, there are girls with diabetes and whatnot suffering as we speak. Seeing as how the shipping lanes died with all the sailor boys, the only way anyone's getting insulin is...
Victoria puts a hand on the frightened woman's back.
Nothing is more resilient or resourceful than womankind. I'm confident our sisters will make do.
Exterior LA Triage Center evening. Cut to later that night where hundreds of women are gathered outside a makeshift triage center in downtown LA. All these Angelinos are helping one another. There are no pockets of violence. It's a welcome bit of peace. Interior LA Triage Center. Push inside where Yorick's long-lost girlfriend, Beth DeVille, is sitting at a round table, leading a diverse group of female community leaders in a meeting. She turns her attention to a young Asian woman named Chloe.
All right, so Farah is taking care of Meals and Wheels outside the valley. Chloe, what's our postal situation?
A step above Pony Express, but a far cry from UPS. Still not bad, considering the only thing mailmen are carrying these days is disease.
Speaking of which, how are we on antibiotics? Nora?
Beth turns to Nora, a 60-something pharmacist.
Unless you're in the market for 6 crates of Viagra, I'm dangerously low on every drug in the entire world. Wow.
Suddenly, the sound of helicopters is heard outside, where women all race to a nearby window, and they see Black Hawks approaching. Chloe and Nora are immediately excited.
Is that military? Oh God, are they finally dropping supplies? Behold, the angels storm the gates of hell.
Push in on Beth, the only one who looks nervous. Exterior Las Vegas evening. On cue, jump to Las Vegas as its entire gaudy skyline burns in a spectacular inferno. Exterior Las Vegas, McCarran Airport. Cuts over to where the airport crosses the highway, and Yorick and 355 calmly watch this conflagration. Their grounded helicopter is refueling next to a tanker truck at the Vegas airport. Ampersand is playing on the hose connected to the Black Hawk.
This is men's fault too, right? Because we taught our daughters to be showgirls instead of firemen.
Firefighters.
Yorick is fed up.
You know, I'm not the He-Man woman hater you think I am, all right? I didn't roadie for Lilith Fair or anything, but I'm down with the cause. I rarely make sexist jokes. I always hold doors open for ladies.
Suddenly, 355 gets into a sparring position.
I mean, I never hold doors open?
I'm not always going to be around to protect you, Yorick, but the SUV of the sky here needs another 10 to finish gassing up. so I figured I might as well teach you a little self-defense.
Yorick waves her off.
I've gotten myself out of plenty of scrapes before, thanks.
In what, Double Dragon?
Double Dragon? What are you, 40?
355 playfully flicks him in the finger.
Look, like many a high school nerd, I survived bullies in the tried and true fashion of fighting like a girl.
Which means what exactly?
Scratching eyes, pulling hair, kicking balls. Not the last one is so applicable anymore.
Why not just go to the gym?
What's the point? You know what the strongest muscle in the human body is?
Heart?
No, it's not the heart, you sappy fuck. It's your jaw muscle. Even a strong dude like me has 500 pounds of bite strength.
Great. That'll come in handy when you're fighting food.
As the helicopter continues to refuel, the two sit down on its edge and watch the fires continue to rage in the distance. Ampersand scrambles over to sit on Yorick's lap.
Hey, before all this, did you have somebody?
Not for a while. My relationships always ended bad.
Because of your job?
355 takes a deep breath.
Because men are all cheating bastards.
Oh. Hey, look, what happened with Sonia?
She softens a bit.
Relax. You've got to be the only guy on the planet who'd end up in this position and not try to bang everything that moves?
Yeah, well, I scored someone way above my pay grade.
A wave of sadness suddenly washes over Yorick. 355 recognizes it and reaches out to touch his shoulder.
Beth is still out there, Yorick. You'll find her soon, and she'll be fine.
How do you know?
I don't. I'm just saying whatever shit will get you to stop moping.
Smiling Yorick sets Ampersand down and stands into sparring position.
Okay. Show me what you got, killer.
355 rises to meet him.
Your funeral.
Two playfully throw punches while black smoke continues to billow into the Vegas sky. Exterior California train station, evening. Later that night, Victoria and her fellow daughters of the Amazon exit their train. Teresa looks concerned.
Last stop, Victoria, and Dr. Mann's laboratory is going to take at least another 10 hours to reach on foot.
Why the hell would we travel on foot, Teresa?
Well, bikes are pretty much non-existent after we lost ours boarding this thing, and the highways are too clogged with makeshift hearses for all of us to pile into a Greyhound or whatever.
Walking along the tracks, Victoria approaches a livestock car.
Do you know what the Girl Scout motto is?
Victoria stops in front of a car filled with a dozen young female horses.
Same as the Boy Scouts.
Exterior, Dr. Mann's laboratory, night. Hours later, 355's helicopter lands in the empty parking lot just outside of Mann's modest laboratory in San Francisco. Pushed in on the craft as Yorick, with Ampersand on his shoulder, exits the helicopter with Agent 355. They inspect the darkened lab.
Abandoned?
Maybe. I'll look around. You and your animals stay here.
Let you inspect the mad scientist's haunted laboratory all by yourself? Well, if you insist.
Ampersand chirps in as 355 walks into the black building. Interior, Dr. Mann's laboratory. 355 steps inside the eerily quiet building and draws her sidearm just in case.
Hello?
Just then, she hears something snap behind a door to her left. Slowly, 355 turns its knob and pushes her way inside. A small generator is whirring away quietly as it powers numerous computer terminals, electron microscopes, etc.
Dr. Mann? Dr. Allison?
Suddenly, a figure steps out from behind the door and presses a hypodermic needle millimeters away from a frozen 355's neck. It's Dr. Mann.
There are enough sedatives in this syringe to put a woman twice your size to sleep for a month.
I'm not here to hurt you, doctor.
The black hawk you parked in the handicap spot suggests otherwise.
I'm here to protect you. I'm Agent 355.
A terrified man immediately backs away from her hostage.
You work for the culper ring?
Lightning speed, 355 reaches up and grabs Mann's wrist, snatching the hypodermic away from her.
How the hell do you know about the culpers?
Dr. Mann takes a seat in one of her lab chairs, exhausted.
You're the people responsible for all this.
What?
Project Setting Sun, or whatever you monsters call it.
A disbelieving 355 aims her Glock at the doctor.
What are you talking about?
Please, if you're gonna kill me, just do it, but spare me the ignorance.
Doctor, look at me. I have no idea what this is all about. I'm here to protect you from the people who want to use you.
Like your superiors did?
Which superiors?
You're serious. The Culpermen honestly kept their foot soldiers in the dark about their real plans.
355 lowers her gun and sits down across from Mann, ready to listen.
Your ring was terrified of the possibility of our country eventually having to fight a ground war with the Chinese military. So a man named 1033 apparently began considering the possibility of a primitive biological strike.
How do you know all this?
Because 10 told me. He came here once a week, offered me millions in exchange for helping to make his sick vision a reality.
His vision?
Discreetly releasing a chemical agent into Beijing's air supply, one that wouldn't harm civilians, but would prevent its women from conceiving male children. His hope was that it could be used to effectively cripple China's economic and military capabilities within a generation.
Someone from the Culper ring did this. That's impossible.
Yeah, if only. I refused to have anything to do with the 10's test, but he and his team proceeded to have the experimental stage without me.
What happened?
What always happens when men try to fuck up with Mother Nature.
Dr. Mann stands and looks out her window at nothing in particular.
I knew the second I read their preliminary research that the environmental impact of even an isolated test would be severe. But I had no idea it would be this.
But how did it spread so quickly?
Morphogenetic fields, trade winds, migrating flocks. Your guess is as good as mine. All I know is that there doesn't seem to be one corner of the globe that wasn't affected.
Can it be reversed?
I can't raise the dead, Agent.
But can you bring mankind back to this planet?
The plague destroyed every last sperm, fetus, and fully developed mammal with a Y chromosome, and whatever was released into the atmosphere is still there. I've attempted to make the new XX rats by using the cells of dead subjects, but they all end up suffering the same fate as their late brother, and I'm afraid a living male will never again set foot on this planet.
Well, and this is one small step for man.
355 and Dr. Mann turn to see Yorick walk inside the room. Ampersand is on his shoulder as always.
Etc., etc.
Mann's jaw goes slack.
Oh my God.
I get that a lot.
Much to Yorick's surprise, the doctor rushes over to inspect Ampersand.
The size of those canines. Is this monkey a male?
Yeah, actually, I'm also...
Obviously, I could understand one of you being some kind of mutation, but how did you both survive?
Well, Doc, the last time I delved into the science on my own, it involved a baking soda volcano nearly blowing off one of my testicles. I was kind of hoping you had some answers.
Where did you find this creature?
Mann takes Ampersand from Yorick, but the animal leaps out of her hands and starts playing with one of the nearby test tubes.
Online? At a volunteer group website? And maybe Ampersand, I don't know, escaped from some Area 51 research facility first. Certainly seems at home here.
Mann inspects Ampersand's fur.
He's not tagged with any lab markings. I'll need to get a blood sample from both of you.
355 is lost in her own world, still processing her group's unforgivable betrayal.
I dedicated my life to those men.
I'm sorry, Theory, but we gotta save the existential crisis for later, right? Look, do whatever you need to get started, Doc, but there's a crazy train blown into town with your name on it, so we should really be out of here by morning.
Mann ominously pulls on a single rubber glove.
We'll leave when I'm good and ready. Last minute or not, it's going to take more than the apocalypse for me to start taking orders from my patients.
Exterior LA Triage Center night. Back in Los Angeles, Beth leads the other local women outside as the Black Hawks make a dramatic landing. Alter steps out of the first chopper and immediately approaches Beth.
Beth DeVille, your reputation precedes you.
You're not Americans, are you? Who the hell are you people?
Before Beth can say another word, someone comes up behind her and places an ether-soaked rag over her mouth. As she slips into unconsciousness, Beth falls into the arms of Rachel, Alter's second in command. Beth's friends scream in horror and race up to help their colleague, but the Israeli soldiers back them away with their machine guns while Rachel and Alter carry the sleeping Beth into their chopper.
What now? We just take up positions here and wait for the boy to come to us?
No, young Mr. Brown and his mystery associate have already killed 3 of our soldiers and stolen one of our ships. He's obviously not a threat to be taken lightly. We need a more fortified staging area if we're going to take him alive.
Rachel considers this.
Have you seen Citizen Kane?
Alter just stares at her blankly. Interior, Dr. Mann's laboratory night. Open on an image of a Y-shaped proteins as they are seen through an incredibly powerful microscope.
It's about sex.
Pull up as Mann looks up from her work.
Like everything. It's about sex.
355 and Yorick are confused.
A foreign agent was introduced into your animal's bloodstream, and his immune system produced a unique antibody to fight it. Somehow these antibodies had added side effect of masking him from the effects of the plague.
How did this foreign agent end up inside the monkey?
It appears to have traveled through the body much like syphilis or hepatitis, so my guess is that it was sexually transmitted.
But how did it get inside me?
355 and Dr. Mann just stare at Yorick and Ampersand.
Okay, that's just it. I did not blow my monkey.
Well, did it ever bite you deeply enough to draw blood?
But no, the only person he ever bit was...
The truth slowly dawns on Yorick.
Beth. I fucked Beth.
355 and Dr. Mann just look at each other.
Look, I had sex with my girlfriend and Ampersand bit her. Whatever mojo saved the 2 of us must have come from Beth.
How's that possible? How is she connected to the culprit ring?
She's not. I don't think this antidote was created deliberately. It's another Maudley petri dish that turns out to be penicillin.
Look, Beth isn't mildew.
Moldy.
She's a
Moldy.
genius.
I don't care about her mind. I care about her body. What made her special? Was she ever diagnosed with a rare blood disorder, polycythemia vera, or immune thrombocytopenia pura, or
Her shot? I mean, Beth's been testing some kind of, I guess, injectable contraceptive on herself?
then she might be the greatest failure in the history of science, because her birth control could have very well be the key to repopulating the entire planet.
As this slowly sinks in, a vindicated Yorick celebrates.
I knew it! I knew we should have been looking for Beth all along.
Doctor, can you replicate the antibodies inside Yorick and Ampersand?
Maybe, but I need to know what exactly triggered their creation before I can retro-engineer an inoculation.
Then we have to get to Los Angeles fast before Beth.
Suddenly, a squawking is heard coming from outside Mann's laboratory window. 355 draws her weapon.
The hell is that?
Sounds like it's coming from our copter.
Exterior, Dr. Mann's laboratory. 355 warily escorts her companions outside as Yorick notes a flashing light on the helicopter's cockpit.
We have a radio?
Don't touch it, Yorick. Just...
I repeat, this message is for Yorick Brown. You have until midnight to surrender yourself to us at the Harris Castle in San Simeon. You don't, we will be forced to terminate your loved one.
The blood drains out of Yorick's face as his girlfriend's voice comes over the speaker.
You people are insane. My boyfriend is dead. Yorick is dead.
Change angles so that way we now are looking at Yorick through the familiar POV of a pair of binoculars. Exterior San Francisco hilltop night. Reverse angles to reveal that these field glasses belong to Victoria, who's standing at the top of a nearby San Francisco hill in front of her assembled troops, most of whom are now mounted on horseback. Victoria lowers the binoculars to speak with Teresa, her bald-headed second in command.
I don't suppose that's his clone?
Where the hell did they get a helicopter?
I have no idea, but we're not letting him steal the good doctor for himself. Bring me Sam.
Are you sure?
Victoria just glares at Teresa, who quickly summons 2 Amazon recruits carrying a long crate.
Sorry, I just thought we were saving her to use on Mount Rushmore.
Victoria opens a box.
The best laid plans of mice and men.
Revealing that Sam is actually surface-to-air missile launcher. Exterior, Dr. Mann's laboratory. Cut back to Yorick and the others outside the helicopter, still debating what to do about Beth.
We have to tell these people what they have. This Beth girl is the holy grail.
Somehow, I don't think that's going to make the Israelis more likely to part with her.
Then I have to give myself up.
Oh, if they take you, it's going to destabilize the entire world.
Like it's not destabilized already? Look, what difference is one less guy gonna make to...
Just then, Yorick and the others are violently thrown to the ground as an entire tail section of the Black Hawk explodes after being struck by a surface-to-air missile. 355 groggily gets to her feet and looks up to see a stampede of mounted Amazons charging down a hill in the background.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
What?
355 yells at a temporarily deafened Yorick, who's holding his terrified pet monkey.
We have to get out of here.
What?
An impatient 355 helps a disoriented Dr. Mann to her feet.
Do you have a car?
Sort of.
What's that mean?
Exterior, rear alley, continuous. Open on a tight Y logo to pull out to reveal that it is attached to the front of a 1990 Yugo convertible. Yorick and his companions race for this tiny vehicle, which is parked in a narrow alley behind Mann's lab.
A Yugo?
Hey, don't blame me for this country's pathetic funding of the sciences.
355 throws her duffel bag into the passenger seat.
Man, you drive. Yorick, get in the back and keep your head down.
355 pulls out a pump-action Mossberg.
I got a shotgun.
Exterior, San Francisco hilltop. Outside the alley, the car soon screeches around the corner. The vehicle dodges several larger cars still parked in the middle of the street, leftover victims of the plague, as Mann and company are immediately confronted by the oncoming posse of horse-riding daughters of the Amazon.
Are you kidding me?
The car's hood is soon peppered with shots fired from the rifle-toting Amazons. 355 leans out of the convertible and returns fire.
Don't shoot the horses.
Don't you experiment on animals for a living?
You kill a horse, I'll drive us into a lamppost.
355 shakes her head as she shoots another girl, careful not to hit any of the mares. The Yugo flies past Victoria, who circles around to give chase to the slow-moving car.
We want the doctor alive. Save your bullets for the boy.
Inside the car, Yorick sticks his head up from the back seat.
What is this thing's top speed? 11?
Damn obstacle course, I'm doing my best.
355 turns around and angrily pushes Yorick back down as she fires a shot over his head.
Do better. If we can't shake them by San Simeon, we have two sides going to war with Yorick.
Suddenly realizing what she just said, 355 lowers her gaze to look down at Yorick, whose expression is equally knowing. Exterior, Hearst Castle, night. Welcome to this ridiculously palatial estate overlooking the Pacific Ocean, a shrine to man's self-indulgence. Alter's troops are at the ready outside, guns drawn in front of their two parked helicopters, while the third chopper circles directly above this modern-day Xanadu. Interior, Hearst's private suite. Inside Mr. Hurt's private suite, a room filled with obscene amount of mirrors, Beth is tied to an ornately carved chair. She screams against her gag, and the muffled cries for help echo through this massive room. Exterior, suite building. Just outside Beth's makeshift prison, Alter and Rachel are surveying troop movements from the castle's grand balcony.
Yorick's not coming for her, Alter. He could have any woman he wanted.
So could Menelaus, and he still launched 1,000 ships to retrieve Helen of Troy. Trust me, there's only one thing a man wants.
Alter points at an approaching vehicle kicking up dust in the distance.
The woman he can't have.
Interior, Yugo, night. Cut inside this approaching vehicle as a nervous man chauffeurs 355 and Yorick towards certain doom.
How sure are you about this plan?
Yorick and 355 speak over each other.
About 40%?
Dr. Mann just sighs as Yorick reaches back to pull up the vehicle's convertible top.
Look, that's a combined 50%, baby. Even odds we live through this.
Exterior Hearst Castle. The car skids to an impressive halt, and the female IDF soldier cautiously approaches it. Exterior suite balcony. Rachel inspects the car through binoculars as Alter gives orders over a bullhorn.
He's not alone. Looks like at least two others are in there, but snipers won't be able to get a clear shot at them while the top is up. A Trojan horse?
Hold your fire until the target is out of the vehicle. Approach with caution and...
Ah, Alter?
What now?
An annoyed Alter lowers her megaphone.
Forget the horse. They brought the fucking cavalry.
Exterior Hearst Castle, cut back outside as Victoria leads her mounted troops thundering up the castle's main driveway. Teresa looks up to see the Israelis' helicopter and rides up alongside her leader.
Victoria, what is this?
End game.
Victoria and her heavily armed troops come to a stop on one side of the parked Yugo, as the confused IDF troops square off against them on the other side. Interior Yugo. Back inside the vehicle, the trio nervously watches this showdown.
We're dead.
No, the Amazons won't risk hurting you, and the Israels want Yorick alive. They're not going to be shooting at us.
Yeah, haven't you ever seen two girls go at it over a guy, Doc? After the first slap, they forget he ever existed.
Exterior Hearst Castle. As Victoria's followers keep their weapons trained on the opposing army, the Amazon leader addresses the Israelis.
Sisters, your animal instincts tell you to shelter this boy, but ask yourselves, are you animals or are you women? Why give your lives to dispense some testosterone drunk predator?
Exterior Sweet Balcony. Alter and Rachel are still on their high ground perch overlooking this face-off.
They're not with the boy, they're against him.
The enemy of our enemy?
Is still our fucking enemy.
Alter picks up a small handheld radio.
Air team, take them out.
Exterior Black Hawk helicopter. Cut to the Israelis' one airborne helicopter as it circles above the mounted Daughters of the Amazon and unleashes thousands of rounds of ammunition. Exterior Hearst Castle. As her mounted warriors take heavy fire, Victoria barks out orders.
Kill them all! Let the goddess sort them out!
Teresa again produces a SAM launcher, which she fires at the helicopter above. Its main rotor explodes and the helpless craft spirals towards oblivion, ultimately crashing on top of several IDF ground troops. The Amazons cheer, but the surviving Israelis quickly resume their firefight. Interior Yugo. With the two armies otherwise occupied, 355 gathers her weapons and reaches for the passenger side door.
All right, I'm going to make a break around the back and try to find Beth. As long as these assholes don't run out of bullets, you two should be safe in here.
3.
Doctor, if I'm not back in 5, peel the hell out of here and do what you can with Yorick.
3.
Exit Hearst Castle. Continuous. Yorick calls after her, but 355 is already gone. As she dodges the crossfire, 355 dives for a row of hedges on the sidelines of this battle. Interior Yugo. Back inside the tiny car, Ampersand leaps out of Yorick's arms and goes running out the car windows after 355.
God damn it, Ampersand, get back!
Yorick starts to open his door, but quickly closes it as a hail of gunfire kicks up dirt just outside the car. Exterior, Castle Garden. As the rear of the sprawling estate, 355 carefully lurks around a maze of crumbling old marble columns. She accidentally brushes past a loose fragment of one of these pillars, which falls onto the ground with a not insignificant chunk. Nearby, the two lone IDF girls, entrusted with guarding the rear entrance, turn their machine guns in the direction of this sound. As an outgunned 355 steadies her silenced pistol and takes a breath, prepared to confront these women. Just then, a screeching is heard, and the two soldiers pivot to see Ampersand hissing at them from another column on the ground. Before this bizarre sight has time to sink in with the two soldiers, 355 takes advantage of the distraction to shoot the women dead. 355 looks at the Chupichan monkey with a hint of gratitude.
You're finally good for so.
Unfortunately, Ampersand proves to be just as useless as ever, as his noises apparently attracted the attention of a third guard who promptly shoots 355. The bullet enters high in her left collarbone just above her heart with enough force to knock 355 backwards. Before she falls, 355 squeezes off a single round, hitting her attacker square in the eye. Collapsing to the ground, 355 fights to maintain consciousness, but her eyes start to roll back into her head. Ampersand watches all this with seeming indifference. Exterior Hearst Castle continuous. Back at the main battle zone, Victoria again rallies her followers.
Hold your ground, sisters. Give me cover while I retrieve our savior.
Still on horseback, Victoria's mare gallops into the fray, and the Amazon dismounts when she reaches Yorick's vehicle. She promptly rips open the Yugo's driver's side door.
Dr. Mann, I presume?
Victoria starts pulling Mann out of the car, but Yorick is holding on to the doctor's feet.
Don't struggle. You belong with me.
I only date same chicks.
Mann pulls out the same hypodermic as she threatened with 355 and plunges it into Victoria's arm. The Amazon leader looks at this needle with confusion before finally collapsing while Yorick pulls Mann back inside the car. Exterior suite balcony. Back on the balcony, Rachel watches the battle with disgust.
By the time we kill the last of these maniacs, they'll have wiped out half our platoon. We have to stop this.
Cut over to Alter as she opens a crate of gas grenades.
I concur.
Fentanyl? No. The gas is too unpredictable. When the Russians used it on those Chechen women.
Yorick's a viral young man. It won't kill him.
But if the wind carries a strong enough concentration our girls' ways, they could be paralyzed or worse. We have to call them back first.
Retreat? And risk letting those savages escape with our prize?
Push in on Alter as she begins loading a grenade into a large riot gun.
I'm afraid that's not an option.
Cut back to Rachel as she reluctantly draws her sidearm and aims it at her superior.
Put it down, Lieutenant General.
Alter slowly lowers the riot gun.
You remember the punishment for treason, I trust?
I should have done this back in Tel Aviv. You're a disgrace to our country and our...
With a flick of the wrist, Alter produces a dagger with a pearl handle. She steps forward and quickly plunges it into Rachel's heart. She stares into the girl's eyes as Rachel's pupils become still and black.
I forgive you.
As Rachel's lifeless body crumples to the balcony floor, Alter picks up her riot gun and launches several grenades down at the ongoing battle below. Push past Alter to a close-up of Beth, still hostage in the room behind her. The gagged girl has been watching this entire act of barbarism. Her eyes flash both fear and rage. Exterior, Hearst Castle. As the fentanyl gas grenades impact against the battlefield, IDF soldiers immediately drop their weapons and keel over. The Amazon soon follow suit as their horses struggle to stay upright before finally collapsing, pinning the equally unconscious female warriors under their heavy bodies. Interior Yugo. Inside the vehicle, Mann watches this shocking display of chemical warfare with terror. A panicking Yorick fumbles for the little car's buttons.
Windows!
But a frantic Mann quickly opens her door and starts to climb outside.
No, the vents will let it all out anyway. We have to get outside. Get low, get...
Push in on an instantly unconscious Mann as she promptly falls face first into the hard earth. Interior, Hearst private suite. Beth shudders as someone pulls off her cloth gag. She looks up to see Alter standing over her.
It's over now.
Beth promptly spits in Alter's face.
You're a fucking Nazi.
After a nerve-wracking beat, Alter just calmly wipes her face with Beth's gag.
If you want to live to see your boyfriend, I'd advise against comparing me to the scum that slaughtered my grandfather.
If the jackboot fits.
Your hatred is unjustified.
Exterior Hearst Castle. Alter's words continue over images of gas clouds swirling around the still bodies on the battlefield below.
Your true love is only sleeping.
Push in on Yorick's body. He's lying down on his stomach just outside the car.
Dreaming of you, no doubt.
But suddenly, Yorick's body begins to move. Track over his face, which we can now see he's wearing the familiar gas mask that Yorick's been carrying with him since New York.
The boy will be fine in a few hours.
The gas mask-clad Yorick looks around to make sure that no one is watching before he reaches for one of the fallen Amazon's revolvers. He picks it up and triumphantly rises.
And he'll wake in a much safer world.
Walking into the noxious fog that still lingers over the grounds, Yorick disappears. Interior, Hearst's private suite. Smash cut back to the disbelieving Beth.
What the fuck are you?
Alter turns back on the girl and starts to walk out of the room.
Alter Teslon.
Beth calls after her.
Isn't that a guy's name?
Alter stops in her tracks. She turns to look back at Beth.
Don't tell me Yorick found himself a nice Jewish girl. But only half, no? Your mother must have found herself a nice Aryan to settle down with.
Alter. It means old one, right?
Alter approaches her.
A stupid tradition. 2 of my siblings died at birth, so when my parents had me, they decided to never speak my real name aloud. The nickname is meant to deceive the angel of death so that he'll never be able to find me.
Beth just sneers.
Today's the day he catches up with you.
A sinisterly smiling Alter gets close into the girl's face.
Really? Have you guessed my true name?
Yeah, it starts with C and rhymes with cunt.
Cut over to the gun-wielding Yorick as he dramatically rips off his gas mask with his free hand.
Yorick?
He confidently aims his weapon at Alter, but immediately steps behind the still-bound Beth and presses her pearl-handled dagger against the stunned girl's throat.
Drop it before I open her.
Yorick looks at the revolver in his trembling hand. There are only 2 bullets in its chamber. What if he misses? Reluctantly, Yorick lowers the weapon.
I'm sorry, Beth.
Yorick, it's fine. Go! Get out of here!
No, not just about this. Like, I'm sorry about before. I lied to you.
Beth is confused, but Alter's just impatient.
What?
This is not fucking couples therapy.
Look, I told you I got Ampersand because I wanted to help people, but really, I just wanted to impress you.
Yorick, leave!
Look, I love you, Beth, and with everything I've ever done, I've done for myself. I don't know why fate chose a selfish bastard like me, but she made a huge mistake.
If you want to help your girl, why in the hell are you still talking?
Because men are only better than women at one thing.
Alter can't resist.
And what might that be?
This.
Suddenly, Yorick spins his revolver's open wheel before slamming it shut and pressing the gun to his own temple. He closes his eyes and places his first round of Russian roulette. Click.
What the fuck are you doing?
But I'm useless to you dead, right? Let her go or I punch my own ticket.
You're lying. That gun's not even loaded. You'd never...
Yorick interrupts her by firing a shot into the marble floor. Beth and Alter flinch in shock as Yorick spins the wheel again and takes aim at his own skull.
All it takes is one, right?
Push in close onto the gun, and we can see one remaining bullet start to move into position behind the revolver's slowly descending hammer.
No!
Just as Yorick's about to squeeze the trigger, Alter throws her pearl-handled dagger at his wrist. As the dagger embeds itself in just below Yorick's hand, the last man drops his weapon before it discharges. Alter runs for the fallen weapon, but Yorick kicks it away before she can get her hands on it. As Alter cautiously approaches him, Yorick yanks the dagger out of his wrist. He's trying to look like a badass as he wields the blade, but the pain is unbearable.
Did that hurt?
As Yorick continues to brandish the dagger, Alter suddenly charges at him.
You've never even met pain.
Alter kicks the knife out of Yorick's hand before ferociously headbutting him between the eyes. As a stunned Yorick falls backwards, Alter calmly picks up her dagger, tucks it into her belt, and heads for the revolver. But just as she's about to reach his gun, Yorick catches a second wind and dives for it. The two violently wrestle over the weapon until a shot finally rings out. Yorick smiles. This is just like what happened with 355 and the Israeli soldier back in Marysville, right? Wrong. A horrified Alter looks down to see the smoking weapon in her hand and a smoldering hole in Yorick's shirt just to the left of his belly button. Yorick slumps to the ground and Beth is too shocked to scream. A worried Alter stumbles back to Beth. The soldier draws her blood-stained dagger. Beth flinches, but Alter just slices her hand free of the restraints. She points at the fallen Yorick.
Fix him.
I'm not a medic. I'm just a
furious Alter glares at the girl.
I'll need your knife.
More glaring.
To cut his clothes?
Alter reluctantly flips the pearl-handled blade around and hands it to Beth, but not before she aims at Yorick's sidearm at her and takes defensive position near the room's one doorway.
Don't fuck it up.
Beth runs over to Yorick and quickly kneeling at his side. She brushes his hair affectionately before she tears into his shirt with her knife.
My knight in shining armor.
Like damsel in distress.
As Beth goes to work, Yorick whispers to her,
Listen to me. Don't worry about Alter. That gun, it's empty now. You have to let me die.
Don't talk like that.
Look, the world's just safer without me. Just...
Alter angrily slams her gun at the young lovers.
Stop fucking talking! One more word out of either of you and
Just
Pew.
then, Alter notices something in one of the suite's many mirrors. A figure has silently entered the room behind her. It's Agent 355, badly wounded but alive. Just as 355 is about to put a silent bullet into Alter's head, the Israeli general spins around and knocks the gun out of her hand.
Ugh.
Yorick is both excited and frightened to see his friend.
3!
Alter then kicks 355 in the stomach, sending the secret agent flying out of the room. Alter runs out after her. Back in the suite, Beth is more confused than ever.
Who the hell is that?
It's so long.
And with that, Yorick slips into unconsciousness. Interior North Wing. In the opulent North Wing, just outside the suite, Alter continues to battle Agent 355. 355 flicks open her baton, which she smashes against Alter's right hand, causing her to drop her gun. Alter then roundhouses the baton away from 355. It's strictly hand-to-hand and woman-to-woman from here until the end. 355 taunts Alter as she deftly uses her one good arm to violently spar with her opponent.
You're the one who killed my girls back in Marysville.
If anyone got them killed, it's you.
Alter charges forward and digs her thumb into 355's bullet wound. 355 tries to punch Alter in the kidneys, but the lieutenant general dodges the attack and uses 355's momentum against her, throwing her over a nearby railing. 355 lands on her back with a sickening thud. Alter looks down at her and without pity proceeds to vault over the railing and pounce on 355's one good arm, snapping it loudly. 355 screams as Alter uses that same broken right arm to painfully drag the Culper Ring agent back up the stairs. At the landing, Alter then climbs on top of the pained woman.
Who? Who do you work for?
355 says nothing, so Alter punches her in the face as hard as she can. Through bloody teeth, 355 spits out.
Hold the ring.
Alter smiles.
You're joking. I thought your little sewing circle was just a myth the drill instructors used to scare us with at boot camp. They told us you were some of the best of the best.
Alter punches 355 again.
Tell me, what number did your keepers give you? Maybe I'll get it tattooed on my ass.
A winded 355 struggles to whisper something inaudible.
Speak up, girl.
Alter leans in close as 355 echoes Yorick's earlier words to her.
The strongest muscle is.
Before Alter can answer, 355 snaps her jaws around Alter's throat and bites down as hard as she can. Alter howls a hideous gurgling scream as 355 tears off a healthy chunk of her neck. Stumbling away from her defenseless opponent, Alter presses a palm against her own neck to try to stem the horrible tide pouring out of her open jugular. With her free hand, Alter reaches down to pick up the gun 355 knocked away earlier. She raises her shaky hand to fire a fatal round down into her opponent's face. 355 squeezes her eyes shut, bracing herself for impact, when she hears an unfamiliar shk noise. The Culper Ring agent opens her eyes just in time to watch Alter fall forward dead. Sticking out of her back is the pearl-handled dagger. 355 looks up to see a trembling Beth standing over the deceased soldier.
Are you all right?
Struggling to stay conscious, 355 asks.
Yorick is Yorick.
But before she can finish her thought, 355's eyes fall shut. Blackness. White text on black. Tombstone, Arizona, 2 weeks later. Interior, Dr. Mann's new laboratory. Gradually, this blackness gives way to the sight of a blurry figure looming overhead.
Beth?
As the figure racks into focus, it turns out that it really is Beth. We're again seeing the world through Yorick's point of view.
Beth, I had this fucked up dream that...
Doctor! He's awake!
Similar framing from Yorick's bedridden point of view, but now Dr. Mann appears in frame with Ampersand on her shoulder.
Damn.
Nice to see you too, Dick.
Pull out to reveal that we're inside of Dr. Mann's glistening new futuristic laboratory, where Yorick has apparently been recuperating.
How long?
A while. And then some.
Are you guys...
Mann puts a hand on Beth's back.
We're fine.
Then 355?
Low angle on the doorway to this room as a figure carrying a cane steps inside.
Never better.
Change angles to reveal 355, her face badly bruised and her right arm in a cast. She looks like shit. Yorick tries to mask his revulsion.
Let me guess. Walk into a door?
355 holds up her cane.
Don't cry for me, Gimp. This is all for you. Figure you'll need it until your strength comes back.
She gives the hand-carved walking stick to Yorick, who sits up a bit in his hospital bed.
Does it have a sword in it?
355 just squints at him.
Well, somebody give me the post game. Is that the Israeli woman?
No longer active duty. And we had our troops deported with a little help from your mother.
You called my mom.
She's the one who told us about this safe house. She doesn't want the rest of the government knowing where you are until she's sure they can be trusted.
The Amazons?
Somewhere safe where they are all deprogrammed.
Interior Marysville Penitentiary, open tight on Victoria.
Man can imprison our bodies, but he cannot enslave our minds.
Pull out to reveal that Victoria's wearing an orange jumpsuit and she's addressing a crowd of her fellow inmates inside of the women's penitentiary back in Marysville. The other prisoners cheer with each of Victoria's declarations.
We are the chosen few who recognize that the plague was our emancipation. But we can't stop until all our sisters are freed from the yoke of the past.
As the women continue to applaud, pan over to Sonia, the girl who tried to seduce Yorick. She's dressed in the uniform of a prison guard, and as she listens to Victoria speak, she slowly begins to clap. Interior, Dr. Mann's new laboratory, morning. Cut back to Yorick, exactly where we left him.
Well, at least there's that.
Pull out as Yorick asks a favor from 355 and Mann.
Hey, Doc. 3. Mind if I have a minute?
Mann looks at Beth for approval and Beth nods. The doctor escorts 355 outside. Yorick reaches for his nearby bag.
Beth, there's something I need to ask you.
You're looking for this, right?
Beth pulls out Yorick's ring box from her pocket. He just stares at it.
Oh.
There's something I have to say first.
Oh, okay.
Yorick, back in New York, what I was trying to tell you before I left, I wanted you to know that I thought we should break up.
A beat.
What?
I'm sorry. I was too scared to say anything. I didn't want to hurt you.
But
we were going in different directions, Yorick. You recognized it too.
Beth hands him the ring. She starts crying.
That's why you tried so hard to hang on to me. Because you knew the world was pulling us apart.
It was a different world, Beth.
Maybe it would be selfish and dishonest to say yes to the last man when I would have said no to that man.
Now Yorick is tearing up too.
But I've changed since then.
And so have I. Look, I don't believe in coincidence. There's a reason my formula worked the way it did, and I have an obligation to stay here with Dr. Mann and help her find a way of applying it.
Beth lovingly touches Yorick.
And it's no coincidence that destiny picked you. There's a reason you're still alive, and it wasn't to save me.
Then why? Why am I here?
Beth wipes away Yorick's tears and kisses him one last time.
Alas, poor Yorick. That's the question that separates the men from the boys.
Exterior, Dr. Mann's laboratory, morning. Cut outside to what appears to be an ordinary farm somewhere in the United States as a high-tech hatch opens in the earth. 355 and Dr. Mann walk out of it.
You sure you guys will be all right here on your own?
Yeah, Yorick's mother said this old shelter was designed to house the Congress for 50 years in case Y2K bugged plunge the country into chaos. Thank Christ for misplaced paranoia.
355 walks over to the parked Yugo and throws her bag into the passenger seat.
Well, I appreciate the parting gift.
Where are you off to, 355?
If what you say about the culprit ring is true, then they might be responsible for more atrocities than just this. I'm going to find out what they were and try to make up for as many as I can.
You don't have to pay for the sins of your father, you know.
All you have to do in life is die, right?
I guess, because I sure as shit not filing taxes anymore.
The two shake hands before Mann returns to her new home. As 355 finishes loading her stuff into the car, the sound of the hatch reopening is heard off screen. 355 turns to see Yorick, cane in hand, with Ampersand on his shoulder.
What, does the hard as nails secret agent suck at goodbyes?
Just figured you had more important things to do down there.
Actually, the doc says she's gotten everything important from Amp and me already. She took all the semen samples she needed while I was out. Not sure I want to know how she took them, but...
I hope Beth let you down easy.
He stares at 355 in disbelief.
You knew she was going to dump me.
From pretty much the moment you told me about her, yeah.
Yorick just kicks at the dirt a bit.
Why is women's intuition only right when it's too late to do anything about it?
It's never too late, Yorick. I'm sure you two will work it out.
Actually, I told her I'm leaving.
355 stops what she's doing.
And going where?
Just kind of hoping to hitch a ride with you.
Yorick.
Just hear me out. I know you ladies have the world under control. Beth was telling me the water's back on in most cities and the nuclear power plants are cooling down and all that, but maybe there's something out there that someone still needs a man for?
Like what?
Opening jars?
Yorick, you're safest here.
Sure about that? What if other villainesses find out about this place? Burn it to the ground? God forbid. It's not smart enough to keep all our sperm in one basket.
You have a way with words.
Does that mean I can tag along?
Long beat.
Why not?
As Ampersand scampers into the Yugo's backseat, Yorick climbs in shotgun. 355 takes the wheel.
Buckle up. I don't need the last man flying through my windshield.
Not the last man, 3.
Yorick pulls out a CD from his bag, which he throws into the car's sound system.
Just the only one for now.
Jay-Z's 99 Problems comes to life over the speakers. Agent 355 reaches for the volume with a little half smile, turns it up. We're looking at the car from above now as it peels away from the hidden shelter, eventually slowing to a stop at a fork in a clearly Y-shaped road. Pull out further, faster and faster, high into the air, past the clouds, past the upper atmosphere, till we're once again in space, taking in the serene blue planet, looking much like it did in the moments before the plague. But this time, a large object suddenly floats into frame. International Space Center. Push in to reveal one of the space station's tiny windows to reveal a female astronaut, the one we heard come over NASA ground control speaker during the opening plague montage. This woman's checking a complicated control panel.
That's it. The electron's gone from working intermittently to belching hydrogen into the cabin. Even the ham radio is dead.
Then the decision's been made for us.
Finally, cut over to 2 male astronauts, a bearded Russian cosmonaut and a handsome African-American team leader, hovering in the weightless gravity environments across from their female colleague.
We're going home.